Hello, my astrology friends and family. This is Lada from AstroladaOfficial here with the October 2022 video horoscopes for each of the 12 signs. And I'm calling October the month of the turning point month. Why is that? Because three planets are turning direction. At the beginning of the month, Mercury is turning direct in Virgo. Later on, Pluto is turning direct in Capricorn. Towards the end of the month, on the 23rd, Saturn is turning direct in Aquarius, and at the very end of the month, the last 3 days, Mars is turning retrograde in Gemini. Crazy stuff. Why is that? When planets are turning direction, and so many at the same month, within 30 days, 4 planets, guys, are gonna turn direction. It's a pivotal time when events in our life also turn around, when events in the world also start changing. You'll see it will make a big difference this month. And the month ends with a big bang. First starts with Mercury turning direct, Pluto, Saturn, usually planets turning direct lead to things improving or becoming easier, more according to plan, not needing so much effort. So in many areas of your life, in at least 3 or 4 areas of your life, the beginning of the month up to the 20th, 24th, 5th, there will be things that becoming easier gradually, you'll notice. And in the world as well. But at the end, Mars is turning retrograde. This is when things become a bit more complicated for the whole world. And an eclipse. Eclipses always are a bit of a crisis period. And I'm going to talk a quick summary of what this means for the whole world. And then we're going to go into the 12 signs. But before I go, I want to make an announcement that we're making a big discount on all courses of the late great astrologer Nicholas Stojanovic, who passed away last year. He is the most incredible astrologer with the most precise predictions I've ever seen. What we're going through right now, he predicted it on videos. The proceeds will go to his daughter, who is trying to continue his work and is trying to bring out more books that he was ready to publish. Hopefully this will help her with her work in more classes that he did. But the only classes that are ever available from Nicholas Stojanovic, with the most incredible astrology method that I've seen, that he developed himself with precision that people thought he was psychic, is and very easy as well, is available only on astrolada.com, and we're making 30-40% discount on his courses for the next couple of weeks to 3 weeks. But now let's continue. First, Mercury turns direct, and initially at the very beginning of the month in Virgo is becoming visible. It might be quite good for the markets. It might be quite good for anyone from the beginning of the month who wants to publish, to write, to be heard. With businesses will improve, complications connected to communications will improve, connected to papers, to documents, will learning, will become, and any kind of communications and relationships generally should improve with people around you. But very good for anything that is written, spoken, business, marketing, and so on, to publish, to put it out there. And then Pluto turns direct. Some internal or external power struggles will start getting resolved, especially with authority figures, because it's in the sign of Capricorn. And then on the 23rd, Saturn becomes direct. But it means Saturn is stationary the whole month. And pretty much Mars is also stationary. It looks like they're sitting in one space. Mars in Aquarius, Mars in Gemini, Saturn in Aquarius, holding a trine actually, which is good. So it might feel like some areas in your life are kind of stuck, that they're not moving, but it's almost like the quiet before everything turns around. There is like a peaking and it reaches a final level where it can't carry on like that, and then it reverses. But maybe because Saturn is in the sign of Aquarius, there might be certain important reversals, turning points about society, about any kind of restrictions imposed on society, that it might be like a final reversal of such matters. And that's the last time Saturn is retrograde, actually, in Aquarius, by the way. So any kind of restrictions imposed in society maybe should be reversed. Maybe some kind of new laws that can be created starting from the end of the month. and some kind of society overall, the economy. This is the economy. Any kind of limitations that were like restrictions and so on should be also reversed all over the world, hopefully. But then when having Mars turning retrograde towards the last 3 days, 4 days of October in Gemini, and retrograde means it starts moving backwards, and I'm hoping for retrograde planet also means things kind of being reined in a little bit. So I'm really praying that Mars in Gemini symbolizes fighting between brothers, fighting between neighbors, fighting between relatives. And we're seeing what's happening in Azerbaijan and Armenia, Russia and Ukraine. Neighbors versus neighbors, states after state for states. I hope that it's some kind of a reversal in that direction, or reining in, or turning of direction in the wars that are being led right now between brotherly countries. So maybe if one is taken over now, there might be a change of direction who is taken over when the planet reverses happens. Plus, over the next 3-4 months after that, Mars retrograde can deepen the problems, but kind of with more cautionary approach, while they're being re-examined, and a lot of truth starts coming out about those problems. But the big thing is also the eclipse that is happening on the 25th. Eclipse season is starting from October. You can be felt even before, a month before that. And there will be next one is in November. It's happening at the beginning degrees of Scorpio. New moon eclipse, something new with the south node. And it's very crisis prone, this eclipse, because it's in Scorpio, is the sign of crisis. Something sudden, unexpected, something that is removed from our lives, that is released because it's the south node, but only to make space for something new, which is Venus, indicated by Venus and the planet. And when there is a good planet, like we say, benefic with an eclipse, like Francis said, the ancients said that the malevolence or the difficulty of eclipses is decreased, or it's neutralized in some sense. So yes, it can create some crisis that happens around the world, but it will have like a silver lining in it, or in your own life as well. Early born Scorpios, early born Tauruses, early born Leos, early born or late, the late degrees as well of Libra can feel it. The late degrees of Aries can feel it. So some kind of a crisis, something new, but first you release something, so something new can be born, which is a Venus nature, like love or money or something that is brings happiness of some sort, material as well in some way. But the process involves releasing something first. Collectively, Scorpio is the sign of taxes. There might be, and this eclipse shows what will happen in the next 12 months. So maybe not immediately in October, but over the next 12 months, including 2023, there can be a big relief, possibly, or big changes in the tax system in certain countries, relief of debt of some sort of countries or of individual people, which I'm hoping for, or some big change that is starting to happen in the tax system. Hopefully not going up, but it's kind of a bit hard to say because it's with the south node. I'm hoping it's kind of less, and Scorpio also rules people's investments, finances, things like stock market, things like, and then there will be an eclipse in Taurus, which is again connected to prices, to money. So we're gonna see shakeups. We're already seeing it with the prices again, crisis with money, shakeups with that. And we're going to see investments or savings that they might be under some crisis there as well. It's just the beginning. And because Mars going retrograde, a lot of astrologers, financial ones, are expecting big financial crisis on the markets as well. I would advise you pension, K40, what was it? Where you keep your pension money or mutual funds or trusts or hedges. Be careful. If you can withdraw your money, can be a good advice. If you can withdraw your money from a bank to have some cash, might be a good idea as well, because there can be big surprises there. And I think it might not be like totally you lose all your money or whatever, because Venus is in this eclipse. But the following one in November is not that easy. And because Venus is in this eclipse, if something happens with your savings or mutual trusts and investments or pensions and so on, maybe there will be some kind of a silver lining, like the government can compensate for those things, or I'm hoping for that. But just start, you see big shakeups in those areas. So there you go, guys. And Mars going retrograde in Gemini. I talked a lot about that. They can be a big event in October or around the retrograde, the stationary period, connected to civil unrest, connected to Gemini's society as well. It's the towns, the cities, it's the people in them, and Mars is unrest. It's more violence of some sort. Fingers crossed, just be safe, I think Mars holds a very good trine with Saturn the whole time. So the situation can be under control, even if it's very much escalating. Like I said, also the situation between brother versus brother, Russia, Ukraine, especially on the stationary period, which is the whole October, can be escalating, but it's kind of held under control still because of the trine of Saturn. But when Mars starts moving retrograde, I hope that there might be some pulling back, basically in November, December, a little bit of this re-examining of the situation. Fingers crossed again. I'm not God to tell you, I'm just here trying to unfold the meanings of what is going to be happening. All right, so now let's start with the 12 signs. Aries, Sun, Moon, Rising, October 2022. The month starts with Mercury turning direct in our 6th house, Aries. So if there were some delays with work or some complications or extra heavy duties and responsibilities, they start giving results from the beginning of the month. If you've put a lot of effort on some project, fix it, redid it, things start moving smoother, more according to expectations, and maybe towards a completion or seeing the results of that. If there were some complications with your health and Mercury made you revise your habits and so on, when it starts moving direct again, you will see the good results of these and maybe improvement as well, improvement of your health. I personally was sick a few times with Mercury retrograde. Well, constantly, basically. You can hear it on my nose. So hopefully this will kind of improve our health as well, our routines if you rethought them, and our daily environment will be more manageable, more easy to plan rather than full of surprises. So you're planning, when Mercury was retrograde in the 6th house, often it happens you plan for one thing, but you can't do it because something else comes up. Well, all of this comes into order again. Or some complicated situation at work as well can get resolved, and then Mercury continues being retrograde direct into your 7th house later into the month. If there were some complications in the life of your partner or in the relationships with partners, clients, business associates, or some contracts, they get resolved. If there was a delay with some contract or some activity that you've been doing in a partnership with another or collaborating, it starts moving forward. Or if there was some crisis in the relationships, things, again, even if it ended or contract ended, things like go back to, they don't go back to how they were before, but things, you start functioning better without those things. And for others that have complications in relationships or agreements, things start moving smoothly again, more predictably. And then after that, we're going to have, for the big part of the month, Venus and the Sun are in your 7th house, and Mercury. So there is a big focus on others, guys. A big focus by working with others. Things move fast. Maybe new ideas will come because Sun and Venus join in a conjunction in Libra. Maybe new collaborations can appear that will unfold over the next 9 months in the cycle of Venus. Maybe new partnerships can appear for many of you, renewal of relationships, something new can appear in the life of your partner or can come to you through another person in October. A big part of October is focused on that. And then the other big event is that Saturn is turning direct in Aquarius. That's our 11th house. For the last time Saturn was retrograde in our 11th house, it will not be retrograde again there for 30 years. It's turning direct around the 23rd. I'm not saying immediately you'll feel it, but after that, you notice that if there was some delays of some long-term goals and plans of yours, some big dream of yours, some big project you've been working on, it starts moving forward slowly but surely. The delays get cleared off, and the hard work that you've been doing on that, you start seeing results of it. If you've been working on some big project or dream or goal, you start seeing the results of it now. If not, I mean, you don't feel much. 11th house is also the house of gains and rewards. So if your gains or rewards have been thwarted or somehow complicated or somehow you have to put extra efforts for it, again, after the end of October or from some 2030 onwards, you start seeing unlocking or seeing the results of improved gains or rewards of some sort, or titles and honors even. Or if you've been working hard to achieving some title or honor, or recognition or public acceptance of a product or some creation of yours, you can more easily, and if you've been working hard on that, you can start seeing the results of that now when Saturn turns direct. Also, if there was some complication in relationships with friendships, or maybe restriction on your social life, or maybe kind of a cooling off of friendships or testing and re-examining of friendships, when Saturn starts moving direct again, things should start improving in that area, and those blockages there, especially in your social life, should be eased off. And so a lot of good stuff. Of course, Saturn is making the last square to Uranus in your second house. It can be a bit kind of, when it comes to finances, it's a little bit unstable, so you have to make some changes there. And then Jupiter, almost till the end of the month, let me just check till when, is in Aries. The early degrees of Aries will feel it, the early March-born Aries, or the 20th till 25th of March Aries will feel this very positive influence of Jupiter, but then it leaves your sign on the 29th of October, and we'll go back to our 12th house for November, December, basically. And we'll have an opportunity starting from the end of October as Aries to receive some insights on a spiritual level, to receive some answers, so psychic intuition that is very strong, to improve our sleep, to improve our communication with our soul, the invisible world as well. But you might feel a little bit more deflated when Jupiter leaves our sign, because Jupiter, when it's in the sign of Aries, all of us maybe felt a little bit better and a little bit more positive over the last few months, 4, 5, 6 months. But the very early Aries will feel it. Those born very early, Jupiter is just at the last degrees of Pisces, they'll still feel the luck and expansiveness of Pisces. And maybe it's kind of when it goes back into the 12th house, maybe re-examine something, re-evaluate certain plans, research certain things a bit more, and then soon it will come back towards the end of the year in our sign, so full speed ahead, don't worry. Okay, and then last but not least, well, not last, Moon, the Sun, many things are happening. The Sun eclipse, the eclipse of the Sun at the beginning of Scorpio. Our 8th house, solar eclipse in the 8th house Aries. What does it mean for us? And it's with Venus, thankfully. There can be a big focus on finances. As I said, it's a financial house. It can trigger it even from the beginning of the month. The eclipse is on the 25th, but there can be some kind of a crisis or some big change that has to happen with the resources of your partner, with your mutual finances, that you'll be paying a lot of attention for the next few months. Focus, and there is a silver lining because Venus is there. It's not going to be, maybe if it's a bit shocking or it feels like a crisis at the beginning, it will lead to something better. But if you put your money in some savings account or in some pension fund or in some stock market or mutual funds, there can be some kind of a shift there or some kind of a fated events that you have to work with, something connected to taxes as well as an important development again, because Venus is there. I think the final result can be very good. 8th house is the house of deaths and births and conceptions, so all those extreme, the entrances to life and into life and outside of life. So there might be There might be some focus on matters concerning life and death, birth, rebirth, conception, that are developing in your life, that are kind of fated events of some sort. So pay attention. I mean, it's sometimes scary. Oh, death, will someone die? I cannot tell you, but I'm just giving you the meaning of the eighth house. Sometimes, in extreme cases, you might notice increase of not you, but people around you, that it's something connected to death, birth, and such topics that is happening. And of course, it's inheritances and insurances. There might be a major development that is fated. That even if a loss is involved because of Ketu there, it will have a silver lining connected to insurances, inheritances, and so on. And last but not least, Mars is turning retrograde. Towards the end of the month, guys, our planet that rules us starts feeling like it is losing some of its steam. And I wouldn't say losing steam, it's like a redirection, turning point. So this month is very pivotal for Aries because the planet that rules us is changing direction. You'll notice that especially towards the end of the month, your opinion on something, your thoughts on something really start to change. You really go more internal, those thoughts. You really start to re-examine your thoughts, your internal dialogue, and how you talk to yourself, or how the things that you write or speak maybe on social media publicly. You might have to retrieve back some things you said. You might have to reevaluate. Am I saying too much? Or am I saying too little? How am I communicating? Something about correcting something about your communication style, about what you put out, like on social media, or what you write. Or some of you might go back to some old studies that they studied, some old schools that they pick up, and they really dive into them from the end of October, that they start using a lot of those skills for some project, skills that you already have. And it can be a great time to really deepen your skills with this Mars retrograde in the third house about something that you really want to perfect and master, because Mars puts all its energy into that, and a retrograde planet puts 3 times more energy in something, even though it's very slow going. But at the end of the process, from the middle of January, you gain a lot more skills with something, more perfection in that skills. Some of you might be working very hard with this Mars retrograde on some project connected to writing, to speaking, to internet, to media, to websites, to sales, to marketing, to communication of some sort, like where they put a lot of effort, correcting, editing, checking over. But Mars retrograde is not about stopping to do things. It's actually do things a bit slow, but even 3 times more focus and energy you put there. And it's a slow going process, but the final result is more perfect. So like measure 3 times before you cut. There might be some complication that starts happening in your relationships with siblings, or in the life of siblings or relatives or neighbors around you. And if there's some issue, it can start escalating with this Mars retrograde. So hopefully you don't get yourself in such problems. So if you've said something wrong, it might backfire on you. Something in the past can backfire. Also be careful about your accounts and passwords, YouTube, Facebook, all such things. If you have social media presence, because they might be under revision, they might be under more scrutiny, or there might be some crisis or correction that happens there. Just warning you to know that. And in this process also, the Mars retrograde will teach you to be more cautious and careful with what you say. So there you go, Aries. A lot of things. I think that a lot of good things, but also some more stressful with Mars going retrograde and with the eclipse, but they don't directly affect you. See, it's not in your sign. It's more connected to your community. Taurus, October 2022, Sun, Moon, or Rising. The month starts with Mercury turning direct in your 5th house, Tauruses. So if there were some complications, misunderstandings, or delays connected to your love life, connected to a relationship with children, or connected to some creative projects or creative activities, they start getting resolved. Also, if you've been working hard, putting your efforts on some creative project, something you're passionate about, you start seeing the results of it now, and things start going smoothly there. And then Mercury continues being direct throughout the month in Libra, where it was first retrograde in your 6th house. And if there were some complications or difficulties connected to your work, to your duties and responsibilities, to your everyday routines, if they got a bit more messed up or with a lot of unexpected ups and downs, they start improving and smoothing out and running according to plan. Or if you've been working hard on some project behind the scenes or on editing, perfecting some work, or working on your health, if you've been revising during the Mercury retrograde your health, then your health starts improving this October, and your some health habits become more easy to maintain as well, and your daily routines start running smoothly. The next thing is that Saturn will turn direct as well around the 23rd. And by the way, there is a big focus this month on the 6th house Tauruses, because Venus, the Sun, and Mercury are all in your 6th house of work, duties, responsibilities. It's a great time, and there is a new moon there. Oftentimes people feel inspired to renew their health routines, or maybe renewal of something that maintains your health. Renewed efforts, for example, for good posture, for better eating, for healthy routines, for supplements, whatever it is. And you do it with more love. Venus is there with more dedication, and such things can be big focus for you. How to be healthier, how to take care of your body. And also work is the 6th house, employment, they can be renewal, possibilities that appears there, like a new work project for some of you, environment, and so on. And then, so big focus here on the 6th house. And then Saturn on the 23rd turns direct in your 10th house. I think you'd appreciate this, Tauruses, because when Saturn is retrograde, maybe there was you questioned in the 10th house for the last few months. Maybe there was a questioning of your career, or maybe things were going slow there, or maybe you were working extra hard on some career project, or maybe some situation with authority or boss figures. If it was complicated or not going anywhere, it will start turning and improving. So it may be if there were delays with an institution, delays or problems with bosses, they start getting resolved. If there was problems, or if you worked very hard on some career project, as I said, you start seeing the results of those efforts now. If there was some blockages to your career, they start getting resolved. They start moving forward. Anything connected to your social status, if there were problems, or with any authority figures or parents as well, sometimes these things become easier, lighter. There's still more for you to do there, because Saturn continues to be in this 10th house of worldly responsibilities, duties, career, reputation. Still things are kind of, it's Saturn after all. You have to approach it very seriously with efforts, but it starts becoming easier. It starts giving results and payback for your efforts. And then we have eclipse that Tauruses will be very strongly affected by. This eclipse is happening in your 7th house, Tauruses. It's happening on the 25th. Some of you might feel it already a few weeks before, and it gives the note and the tone for the next 6 to 12 months. So the event might not be immediate. Oftentimes it's within weeks of the eclipse, but it's showing a huge focus and kind of pivotal fated events connected to your relationships, especially if your ascendant or moon is in Taurus, with the sun as well. I can tell you, when there was a south node eclipse opposite my sun, exactly, years ago, I got married that year. It was more of a south node relationship, which was more kind of spiritual, past life connection rather than, strong desire one. But sometimes it can indicate a big turning point and a big fated event connected to relationships. Some of it, because it's new moon, can even meet someone. Taurus is a fated relationship that is meant to be in your life or to change your life in some way, and it's connected to past lives, or it's connected to the past in some way, or there is some spiritual undertones to it, or maybe a new partnership, or a new towards the end of the month or some. But it's interesting because it's with the South Node. First, it might clear off certain partnership or contract or relationship. It might feel like a crisis, and it might come out of the blue that someone disappears from your life, that someone is taken away from your life. Even life can take them away, or they might leave, or they might pass, or they might, something happens with an important person, a partner, or business partner, client, or someone that you're in collaboration with, one-on-one, or close friend, that some pivotal event happens there. There might be some testing of a relationship, like a crisis period to it, because it's after all an eclipse. Eclipses are not always, everything is perfect. Sometimes there's a shock factor there, and there's some fated factor there. But because it's a new moon eclipse, it entails making space for something new to come in your life through a partnership, through a relationship, even if it clears off another. And because Venus is present there, the planet of love, I think for some of you might be a fated relationship, as I said, or fated collaboration of some sort. And even if something is cleared up from your life, it's making space for something that might come over the next 12 months. And especially if you're early born Taurus, those that are born in April 20th, 21st, 22nd, 24th, 23rd, those 4 or 5 days, or if you're Aries, a Taurus rising or moon in the first 5 to 10 degrees, you're going to feel this eclipse the strongest, that can really literally turn your life around. But it is connected to circumstances a little bit outside of you, because it's in the 7th house, not yours. And it's kind of connected to the people around you as well. Some big new beginning in the life of a partner, a big change there. I don't know exactly what to tell you. It depends on what situation you're currently in life as well. And the next event that is important is that Jupiter is moving back to your 11th house, the very end of the month, the last 3 days. So from the 12th, where it's not very active, in the 12th, the Jupiter benevolence cannot be felt much for the last 6 months. It's more like expansive. Spiritually it's been, but materially on the outside you can't see it so much. But Jupiter dips back into the 11th house of gains from the very end of October. So for some of you, mostly November and part of December can be months to be more gainful, to be rewarded for something. It's the 11th houses of gains, rewards, awards. And Jupiter loves being the 11th house because it gives big such one. Your social life can pick up from the end of October. Your also, I think, like, the later born Tauruses can feel really more uplifted, more positive, more optimistic overall, more luckier. Basically, those born on the last 4 or 5 days of Taurus, the last 5 degrees of Taurus, will especially strongly feel this Jupiter in November and December, already starting from the end of October. So it's, if you have any social events, if you have some big projects to bring out to the public, if you want to reach or expand your fans or clients, if you want to make more money as well, if you want to fulfill some dream or long-term goal, or participate in large organizations, or participate in movements, when Jupiter goes in the 11th house, this opportunity will be given to you again. If you want to make difference in the world, or if you want social economic rewards of some sort on something that you've been working already on, this can become more easily accessible when Jupiter is back in the 11th house. And then last but not least, at the very last days of October, Mars is turning retrograde in your 2nd house. So I would advise you not to take financial risk. If you do anything new with finances, move them, whatever, do it before, I would say before 25th, of, sorry, before the 25th of October, because after that Mars starts going retrograde. So any new financial endeavors, keep them till the 20th, 20-something of October. After that, it might be the time to re-examine something with your finances, to rebudget, to some crisis can happen for some of you connected to money, finances. some change of point of view and direction of how your resources, your possessions that you have to redo while Mars is retrograde in the second house. Some change of attitude towards food, towards your ingest, towards what you put in your body, because it's also the second house. With your teeth, be more careful. It might be good actually even to have, or might be the need to have some procedures with your teeth during the retrograde period. Mars's ultimate goal is to perfect, to improve things, to deal with crisis, to fix things that are broken. So if anything is connected to finances, your attitude to money, your self-worth as well, and to your teeth, interestingly enough, the second house, and your food, what you eat, you'll be dealing with those things during the Mars retrograde period in most of November, the whole December, all November, all December. But of course, it can entail some kind of a situation financially, like that you have to deal with there. Okay, so there you go. That's for you, Tauruses. And thank you so much. And check out the courses of Nicole Stojanovic, which are discounted 30%, and the proceeds goes to his daughter. So yes, thank you so much. And I think you have a lot of, you see, this month is Tauruses is a lot focused on the 2nd, the 10th, and the 6th houses. So for you Tauruses, these are all material houses, dealing and resolving issues connected to money, to work, to career. And there is a big focus on relationships because of the eclipse there that I told you in the 7th house. But generally, I think despite of the retrograde of Mars that is happening, you can get a lot of things done connected to taking care of practical, material things, physical, career, and so on. Thank you. Gemini, October 2022. If you're Sun, Moon, or Rising in Gemini. Gemini, a lot of planets will be helping you this month because they're in the so-called other air signs like you. The Sun, Venus will be in your 5th house. So when other planets are in the other air signs like you, these are self houses. They trigger self houses. So your confidence should be uplifted this month. Mars is in your sign as well. The Sun, Venus, and Mercury in your another air sign, helping you with trines. The trines, when other planets are making trines to your sign, things develop smoothly with ease, even if it's difficult planets. And Saturn is in a trine sign, basically a self house of self-growth, of knowledge, of wisdom. So Saturn is giving you wisdom this month. It's supporting your actions to do things that give long-lasting results in your life. The Sun also is illuminating you with more confidence, with more luck from the 5th house. It's one of the luckiest houses of good karma. And I know that Mars is in your sign, guys, but most of the month Mars is direct. So it's going to give you a lot of energy to initiate, a lot of drive, maybe a little bit more stressful as well. Mars has stressful energy that, especially a bit later born Gemini, around 20 to 25 degrees of Gemini can feel very intense, but they're under pressure, but they're getting things done. And there's a lot of support from other planets. There is inspiration. Those are the Dharma, inspirational houses that are activated for you, the 1st, the 5th, the 9th. So you kind of feel on fire, on inspiration, drive. You have an opportunity to put yourself out there, to be visible in some way as well, to move forward things with your own will. So you're not so much on the mercy of external circumstances. You can move things according to your vision, according to your inspirations, and according to your will. But let's start from the beginning. Good news is Mercury is turning direct, and Mercury rules you. It's turning direct in your 4th house from the very beginning of the month. So if there was some complications connected to matters regarding your family, your home, here the 4th house, matters regarding selling or buying properties, arranging something with the family, if there were some complications in the relationships with parents or family, some important conversations that have to be led. When Mercury turns direct from the beginning of the month, all such problems get resolved, and things, or if you're building something or fixing something, you start seeing the results of it now in regards to property, home, real estate, family. maybe more improved relationship with family if you went through some important conversations with them and so on. And Mercury then continues to be direct in your fifth house, where it was originally retrograde in September. So if there were some complications regarding your love life or regarding a relationship with children or regarding or if you do they improve, or if there were some delays with a creative project or some extra efforts that you have to put, mental effort in regards to some creative project, in regards to business, if you have your own business, is the fifth house because it's your baby. Then you start seeing the results of those efforts. Things start moving forward more smoothly. It might be a great time because Mercury will be visible and direct in your fifth house, and the Sun will be there as well. So will be Venus. I have two Venuses here instead of Mercury for the most of the month. It can be a time where you can play more, have more fun, where you can renew your love life or put more conscious energy into enjoying life. The fifth house is the things that really make us alive and that we really love doing. We call them hobbies, or we call them the things that sparks your heart. Some of you might be a renewal of interest like that. Some of you might discover some kind of a sport or some kind of a hobby or some kind of a person that, because it's the fifth house of falling in love as well. Or just if you already have someone else, you can do something together. It's in the sign of Libra that gives you a bit more joy, fun. I mean, it's nothing big. Planets transit your fifth house every year around that time, but there is this kind of a renewal of life source and confidence in you. And Saturn turns direct, guys, as well in your ninth house. And it's the last time it was retrograde in your ninth house, and from the 23rd of September, 20 something like that, it turns direct. So if there was any complications or difficulties in acquiring papers for moving to a foreign country, ninth house rules faraway countries, or travel, if there was some delays or complications with travel, they get resolved. If there are some legal complications or delays, they start getting resolved and improving. If there are some complications in your studies or higher education, so some questioning, what should I study? Or maybe if you've put hard efforts on working on some degree or some class or course, some higher knowledge and investigating and studying something deeply, maybe you start seeing the results of that. Maybe things starts moving forward easily. If you've put like a lot of focus on studying, understanding something deeply during the Saturn retrograde, when it starts moving direct, you have very deeply implanted knowledge that starts making sense to you. If you've been re-examining what your future will be, where do I want to go, and feeling kind of an existential or faith crisis often. When Saturn is retrograde in the ninth house, often people can feel, where is my future? What am I going to do? I don't know it's kind of a crisis of what is my meaning, the ninth house? What is my purpose? Or even questioning the whole world. What is sometimes the existential crisis of doubting something you've believed your whole life, of trusting a system or person or knowledge or faith or belief or worldview that you did like a revision of while Saturn was retrograde, and even having unclarity sometimes and working through on a deep level while Saturn was retrograde. Where is the purpose? Where am I going? I might not be clear, but Saturn starts moving direct in your ninth house, and things will start clarifying fully to you from now, from the end of September, pretty much till March 2023, when Saturn leaves from your ninth house, but you'll gain a lot more clarity. Your crisis of faith or even depression sometimes, this existential crises of Saturn in the ninth house will improve. So if there was some doubting of your direction, doubting of something you believed your whole life, it starts improving, or maybe you found something that is way more solid to base your beliefs and worldviews on, and it starts giving you more peace and kind of resolving this existential crisis, this psychological crisis. But also if you've been working on, as I said, hard on anything that involves teaching, learning, teaching projects, learning projects, traveling, foreign countries, import, export, is going to start giving its positive results uh, in, in proportion to the efforts that you put when Saturn turns direct and starts moving forward. And if there was some complications with relationship with father figures or teacher figures, they'll start resolving and improving. Or if someone like that was more harsh or difficult, things should start moving in a positive or in an easier direction. And then another big event is that we're going to have the eclipse. This eclipse doesn't directly affect you by aspect, but it's happening in your sixth house at the very beginning degrees of Scorpio. Here, look, that's you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 house here. So, of course, eclipse can create some crisis connected to work, some change, some big fated change that might happen over the next 12 months. Sometimes it hits unexpectedly, but it has a silver lining because Venus is there. So Venus will indicate that whatever is happening with your work in particular, with the work environment, it can lead to something better. For example, that's how I want to interpret it for you. Plus, the sixth house is connected to health. So some of you, and it's a new moon eclipse, so maybe some kind of a fated undertaking. Sorry, to undertake something to change your health. Maybe you might be forced into that, like some new health routine, like some new attitude towards your body or what you eat and so on. That might happen towards the end of the month or towards November. Also connected to career, some, your employment or employees, that something big change or something surprising that is happening there as well that you have to adapt to, accommodate as well. And last but not least, Mars is turning retrograde in your sign. That's towards the end of the month, the very last 2-3 days of the month. But pretty much the whole month, Mars is kind of stationary around from 20 to 25 degrees in Gemini. So those people born around 20 to 25 degrees in Gemini, you can check out what degree your sun is or Ascendant or Moon. From a birth chart calculator, you're going to feel this Mars very intensely the whole of October. The other Gemini, they're kind of safer. Let's say from 20 to 27 degrees, we'll feel it the strongest because Mars is there and turns the retrograde there towards the end of the month. And this can indicate that after this retrograde period, so basically in November, so during that retrograde period, in November, in December, you Gemini, all of you now I'm talking, will be asked to put a lot of effort into something, to really fix some problem, because the ultimate goal of Mars is to fix a problem, to improve a situation. So you look within, you look at yourself, and you direct kind of very focused action towards fixing something in your life. It might be fixing something in your health. If it's your sun in Gemini, it might be fixing something in your career that you're working under pressure for a few months, 2 months and a half basically during the retrograde period, that you're working under some, putting extra efforts and energy, that you're putting, if it's your moon, there might be some stresses with the family or your personal life or even relationships. Even if it's your ascendant, it can create some problems with relationships if you're in Gemini, because it opposes the seventh house, but because you're changing and you're making those changes. Somehow you have the power in this situation. In a sense, you have the ability to direct circumstances because Mars is doing this in your sign. And of course, Mars rules your 11th house and your 6th house. So some of the big changes that you're making with Mars turning direction, some of the big shifts that can happen are connected to your health, the 6th house, and connected to your long-term goals and dreams, or some long-term goal and plan that you really have to edit, fix, use extra efforts to correct, or even some of your friendships and social life that you're reevaluating, rethinking how you want to be, or your marketing strategy if you have a business, or your gain strategy. This is the 11th house ruler Mars that you're rethinking. I'm so sorry. And Mars also rules your sixth house. Some of you, the pressure that can come to this Mars retrograde can be in regards to health issues, or in regards to that you have to revise and think, maybe really undertake some more rigorous during this Mars retrograde approach to your health, to exercise, to and to your work, some work project from the past that you have to fix, edit, put finishing touches to. And of course, I advise you don't start any animosities and wars this month, especially towards the end, because with Mars retrograde, it can really escalate for 2.5 months. It can escalate to a very stressful level. So that's my warning for you. Also, just be a bit more careful overall, whether it's your Sun, Moon, or Ascendant Mars being retrograde, not only from October but November and December. Around your Sun, Moon, or Ascendant sign, you're more stress prone, more nervous conditions prone, more respiratory problems prone, because it's Gemini after all, inflammation, respiratory, and so on. And Mars really wants you to, Mars rules the immune system. Going retrograde, it really wants you to pay attention how to strengthen that immune system. And often stressors, which is also Mars, can trigger our immune system, or even allergies of some sort. So that's what you have to be a bit more careful with your health, with injuries, accidents, and so on. I had Mars retrograde on my son a couple of years ago. I got a couple of infections. I was sick a couple of times, but I kind of really reined back my energy, and I reevaluated, what do I want to share with people? How do I want to present myself? It wasn't some big crisis or anything. I was fuming within inside, but I was keeping it in. But it's like, I hope it's nothing. Mars is getting a lot of good aspects, especially in October. But we'll speak about November and December other times. So, but again, the final goal of Mars is to improve something and to perfect it, to fix some problem that exists that you didn't have the willpower and courage to confront before. Now Mars, in its stationary retrograde direction, can force you to deal with it. And it can force you to really master willpower and focus that you haven't had in a while, to really focus your energy in certain directions. So that's really good for many of you Geminis. As you know, some of you are quite dissipated. And to fix a lot of things. Even if they happen through some kind of a crisis, that's how Mars acts, a bit unpredictably, but the final result can be very auspicious. And last but not least, the last 3 days, Jupiter is moving from your 11th house to your 10th house. It will be there in November and in December mostly. So you can go back to some old career project, improve it, get better, see the results of it, some public recognition here, some reputation. For some of you might be a good time, October, November in particular, December, when Jupiter is in the 10th house, for promotion, for career growth of some sort. Jupiter dips back into this house, giving you opportunity, or even to go back to some previous career and high position of recognition for some of you. So thank you so much, Gemini. But remember, in October, you have a lot of support from the 5th house, from the 9th house, the lucky houses. And it's keeping you strong, even despite of some of the stresses of Mars and the, let's say, irritations that can be there. There is a lot of easy support for you as well. Thank you so much, and do check out the courses of late Nicole Stojanovic, which are at a big discount if you're interested, just for a couple of weeks. Cancer, Sun, Moon, Rising, October 2022. This month is quite deep for you, because so many planets are actually activating your emotional houses. Well, of course, you're at least familiar with emotional energies. They're in your 4th house. There will be many planets, Sun, Venus, Mercury. In your 8th house, Saturn will be turning direct. And in your 12th house, Mars will be changing direction. And 3 planets actually changing direction in psychological, emotional houses. For some of you, this can indicate deep insights into some psychological situations, deep motivations of your karmic, or something from the subconscious, deep realizations, spiritual realizations as well, deep realizations about family, about the traumas, about past lifetimes, or about your subconscious behaviors and even vices, and even turning away and turning around in such behaviors, turning point in such self-sabotaging or traumatic experiences from the past, or behaviors that start getting resolved. Very deep with very profound insights month. If any one of you is into reading astrology, psychology, or if any one of you is introspective and thinks deep about themselves, oh my God, they can have incredible insights. Even if they don't, something can click for you on a deep level regarding your past, regarding your emotional happiness, internal world, or even if you go to psychologists or have meetings with astrologers for deep understanding, you can receive now those things. There is a turning point of your awareness now, psychological and your emotional state. These houses rules your emotional states. That there is a decisive change of wind there, decisive turnaround of perspective, so to speak. But it's still kind of heavy energy sometimes because it is the emotional houses. You're dealing with such personal, emotional, private matters. But because it's in air signs, you have a clear understanding of it because of that. And the month starts first with Mercury turning direct in your third house. If there were some complications with communications, with information, with passwords, with documents, with papers, with relatives, with friends, with communications, they start getting resolved. Or even with vehicles, with cars, they start getting resolved from the beginning of the month. If you've been working hard on some project connected to writing, to speaking, to marketing, sales, or in a group, like in a kind of a team, you start seeing the results of those as well. And your daily environment starts becoming more predictable, so to speak. And Mercury then continues to be direct in your fourth house. So if there was any complications with relationships with parents, with family, with extended family, they start getting resolved, coming back to normal. Or if you might be completing some project and seeing the results of it in regards to home, to property, to family, which you've been working on hard, and those kind of, you start seeing the results now. But because other planets are also renewing this fourth house for you, the Sun there, Venus, the whole month almost, there can be also some positive new beginnings in regards to your home, personal life, with family, pleasant moments, renewal of your emotional life there, and insights about your family, about your past. The fourth house rules those. Maybe more focused activities on your family at home, with property, with place of living, matters concerning home. And there can be a strong focus in October for your cancers, arranging something there, but they move smoothly. It's not stress prone in any way. So arranging in such matters as real estate, home, family, property, spending time with family and home are going, I think, quite smoothly. And then we are going to have also Saturn turning direct around the 23rd in your 8th house, another private psychological house. And as I said, it can be, Saturn is the last time was retrograde for the last time in your 8th house. It's not going to happen again for 30 years, almost 29, 28 years. So Saturn will start moving forward in this 8th house. It's known as a very difficult transits, and a lot of cancers can find it more emotionally tough for the last 2 years since Saturn's been in your 8th house, guys. But now it starts moving direct there, so some trauma might start getting untangled. If you've had emotional stagnation, like you're feeling stuck on fighting some inner demons, even on fighting some compulsions, on fighting or feeling stuck at some trauma, psychological internal battle. Any cancer that I've known, almost any, have been kind of like battling something within themselves. Might have felt stagnation in intimacy, blockage at intimacy, blockage in opening themselves up, or even lack of intimacy in some cases, or even questioning their intimacy and how much they can open to another, Well, Saturn starts moving directly. It starts improving that situation. It starts allowing you to be more trusting. And if you've been battling with some inner demons or past traumas, and the pain with them, or the pain from loss or death or whatever, because that's where the pain is stored in the eighth house, it starts getting resolved and becoming easier. Maybe some psychological insights will come to you about the traumas, and even release from some painful situation that you feel you've been controlled in, or some toxic situation. Even kind of like you feel you're no longer, gradually from the end of October, you won't feel so stuck psychologically and emotionally uh, uh, on that psychological situation, on that emotional situation. Even if it's not fully resolved, like you're gonna start moving your focus and consciousness away from it. It's gonna feel lighter, like you can breathe easy, or that there is a resolution if you've been working on some trauma of some sort. Also, if you've had some complications with, say, your partner's resources and finances, if they've been tight, or you've been having some difficulties with mutual finances and resources, they start improving when Saturn starts moving direct. If you've had some complicated situations or delays connected with you receiving money from banks or external sources, or alimonies, or money from another, or mortgages, 8th house, they start getting resolved somehow gradually from the end of October. If you've had some problems with insurances, inheritances, delays with such things, they start getting resolved again. And 8th house also rules conditions that are kind of very strong chronic conditions, or conditions that, let's say, dangerous health conditions. When Saturn starts moving directly, it can suddenly ease the situations off. It can ease the karmic pressure, and oftentimes these are health conditions that are karmic, in a sense that it can ease off this and even start resolving such a situation there, such a health condition even. So a lot of good I think to expect from the Saturn turning direct in the eighth house. And um, Mars is also turning direction in 12th house of the subconscious, and towards the end of the month, again a big change of your perspective, your psychological deep perspective that will last this almost like returning of the soul of your very deep beliefs as well. And sometimes Mars turning direct in the 12th house might not be felt. Sorry, turning retrograde in the 12th house might not be felt so intensely materially in the outside world. It can impact you much more on a spiritual level again, like re-examining some things from the past, even some memories from the past coming to the surface, that you'll be working on again. It's almost like the whole universe is conspiring to work on your subconscious, on your feelings and emotions. I think this continues for you as a focus almost till March 2023, when Mars leaves your 12th house and Saturn will leave your 8th house. So those psychologically heavier things, this purification of the soul and the feelings and the subconscious behaviors, will be lifted off from you, and you'll be having a lot more lighter energies from the spring or March, April of 2023, when they'll go to different, you'll no longer be preoccupied with this internal psychological, more spiritual themes. They'll become much more visible themes. You'd move your efforts and energy. But for now, it's kind of like a purging internal process that continues with some deep realizations while Saturn turns direct, with some powerful spiritual depth that you go into with Mars. And even Mars in the 12th house can help you when it goes retrograde have a breakthrough with some spiritual, penetrating into spiritual realms or into your subconscious way more, and kind of making a sweep off from that subconscious of some sort. And of course, your dreams can become, though, quite crazy with Mars in the 12th house. They can be retrograde as well. You can dream about things from the past a lot. Also, Mars retrograde in the 12th house can indicate dealing with some deep research or deep study. That's a great thing to do during that time. Hopefully not like battle invisible beings and entities in your sleep or dream. I remember Mars retrograde in my 12th house. I was dreaming violent dreams very often. Being more restless, a bit more difficult to sleep as well. But you can have deep progress with anything spiritual, psychological realization, spiritual work or research or breakthrough if you're studying psychic, astrology, something mystical, spiritual. And of course, 12 houses, foreign countries. Some cancers might have connections and some might have some important developments connected to faraway countries, to faraway places, and some studies, deep research as well. Okay, so I think that's about it. And by the way, from the end of the month, Jupiter will start supporting Cancer again because it's going to make a trine to you. It moves back into Pisces in the lucky ninth house. So no matter what's happening with this Mars going retrograde at the end of the month, Jupiter starts protecting you the whole November, the whole December, making a trine aspect to the whole sign of Cancer, especially the later born Cancers that are born towards, 15, 16, 17, those later days of July, or the last, let's say, 5 degrees of Cancer, from 25 to 30 degrees. They'll feel very auspicious opportunities and things lining up, being lucky, feeling more positive, being at the right place at the right time. Oh, I forgot to say, there is an eclipse on the 25th, of course. And this eclipse is moving the focus till the 20th. The focus is on family a lot for you, on internal matter, more private. Around the 23rd, 25th, there is an eclipse that happens in your 5th house, Cancers. And it's an eclipse after all. Eclipses can cause some kind of crisis that are connected to love life, that are connected to boyfriends, girlfriends, to children. But it's also not necessarily because Venus is there. The ancients say that Venus will remove the negatives of the eclipse. So actually it can be some fated but positive event that happens in regards to children, having children, being in love. Someone can come that you suddenly fall in love with, some of you Cancers. That is a fated and more spiritual relationship because of the South Node involvement, the one from past lifetimes. Others can have some new creative project that they might be dealing for the next 12 months because the eclipse affects you for 12 months ahead. And this eclipse is very powerful. It's a new moon one. So anything connected to creativity, to self-expression, to romance can become a big theme for many Cancers as well, with possibilities for something new and fated coming into their life, but also the need to let go of something first because South Node is involved, but Venus will give them the gift of this good new thing, or whether it's a creative project, or whether it's a new business idea. 5th house rules new ideas that are divinely inspired, that are your original ideas that you can start working on and manifesting. 5th house rules the feeling of being in love. Just like you can be in love with a child. If you give birth, you can be in love with someone, or you can be in love with an idea that you're passionately working on, that this eclipse can trigger for you. It might be a bit more dangerous for people that are invested in kind of stock market is connected to the 5th house, but especially more like investments that are more risky. So I'd advise them around the eclipse, around the 25, to be more careful as well. But again, because Venus is there, there is a silver lining and something positive because of that. So there we go, Cancers. I think a lot of deep psychological insights, a lot of deep this month, a lot of deep realizations. Those that are more spiritual can have a really powerful month. Those that are more externally oriented can feel like this month is a little bit more introverted, introspective, with some powerful developments towards the end of it. Thank you so much. Sun, Moon, Rising, October 2022. Leo, start with a summary because the biggest focus this month will be in your social houses. I think for many Leos, Sun, Moon, and Rising, there'll be an uptick in social developments, communications. This is the third house, the seventh house, the 11th house. That's where the major events are happening, excluding the eclipse. We'll speak about the eclipse separately, but you'll notice that there is a lot of communications that are happening for you in October with the Sun there, with Venus, with Mercury moving there direct, and even if there were some complications in communications with relatives or with neighbors, they start improving. There is a renewal of relationships. Maybe new people appear as associates in your life, more contacts, more social interactions that start happening, new people you can meet, new business associations and connections can appear as well, or new projects to collaborate with others, or maybe in a team, to work in a team. If you've been working on something that is connected to writing, to speaking, to communicating, media, software, websites, sales, marketing, advertisement, training, learning some course, this is all great things for this month because Mercury will be also visible in this third house. Venus is there. There is a lot of mental activity that is going for Leos, and I think it's going quite well. Anything to do with writing, speaking, or short trips as well. A lot of short trips, traveling to and fro can happen. Some of you might even be good to buy a car because that's vehicles, the third house as well. And even Mercury first starts being direct in your second house. So if there were some complications or delays or slowing down of financial matters, they start getting resolved from the beginning of the month. Then Mercury goes into this third house. When I said there is a lot of focus here, interactions or short trips, mental stimulation, a lot of things happening around you in your close environment, kind of being a busy bee this month. And if you have any projects where you're writing, speaking, teaching, using your mind, communicating, you might be quite busy again. I think it's going quite well there. And then Saturn is turning direct towards the 23rd in another social house for you, in the 7th house. And it's the last time it's doing it. The next time Saturn will be retrograde in your 7th house will be in 28 years from now. So it's been a 2-year process, guys, that you've been revising your relationships, who you want to stay in your life, who you want to let go of, putting maybe some walls, maybe withdrawing a little bit from others that you don't consider useful, maybe keeping the most strong relationships. Even some crisis in your life might have happened. Sometimes even a bit lonely time with Saturn in the 7th house, but Saturn starts moving direct now. And by March 2023, it will leave your 7th house. But already from the moment it starts moving direct, there is a change in direction in your relationship. Some of you can see that you can be finally free from someone that you had to deal, personal or business partner, client, and you might start moving forward away from that. Others, it might be that some complication in a relationship start getting resolved from the end of October. Some tenseness in relationship or some stagnation in the life of a partner or some difficult chapter in the life of the partner starts getting resolved. Or maybe your partner was pressed or under difficult circumstances, or maybe there was pressure on your relationship somehow, and challenges or even blockage to having any relationships. And during that time of the retrograde, you were revising what you want to do and what kind of people you want in your life and so on. Well, things start improving. Anything relationship related with Saturn turning direct from the end of October, around the 23rd approximately, but some of you might not feel it immediately, but there is a marked change in direction in your interactions with others. And some of you, if you've been working hard with another person in collaboration or partnership on something, you might start seeing the results of it now. Or if you've been working with your partner to improve the relationship, now you're going to start seeing the results of those efforts you've been doing. There is still testing of Saturn that continues in the 7th house, but it becomes much easier now. Okay, and then Mars changes direction in another social house of you, in the 11th house, towards the very end of the month. but it's stationary most of the month. So you can feel like some big change of direction in regards to the friendships that you have, in regards to your social environment that might be continue to change in November, December. Your whole social environment can start shifting in that period. You might be re-examining who are the friends I want in my life, what are the groups I want to belong to, what's my tribe. But the process can start with, some important events connected. And even Mars retrograde from the end of October, in November, you can meet with people that you haven't met for a long time. You can you can go back to some old friends to re-examine them. But of course, it can also create some crisis in a friendship that you might have to deal with for a while. Or crisis or re-examining 11th house is connected to people that are your followers or your clients, for example, or your viewers, if you have such. There might be some kind of a stressful situation that has to be re-examined, or that you're rethinking who you want as your clients during this Mars retrograde, changing the marketing strategy, putting a lot of efforts in such things. 11th house is also the house of gains and profits, and working on some long-term goal or dream of yours. And this Mars going retrograde there from the end of October might require you to put 3 times more effort towards working in such dream or goal, something that will bring more social or economic prosperity for you down the line. But the hard work might has to be done during this Mars retrograde. Plus, if you might be a revision of certain dreams and goals of yours, the old ones that come back for you to retake them, or maybe some group project, or project connected to income that you come back to improve and to work on during this Mars retrograde. Or you might be asked to work in collaboration with more people, a network of some sort, where you have to put extra efforts on something that you already have an idea about. So this Mars retrograde in the 11th house that starts from the end of the month can also give some quite good events towards when it starts moving direct, middle of January. You'll see the results towards working on some long-term goal or dream. Of course, it can change your social environment, some crisis with friends as well, some rethinking of marketing strategies, some rethinking of financial strategies as well. It's a financial house, and how to reach audience or people. And there might be some crisis there that happens if you have followers or people that are your clients. There can be some heated situation, like a crisis that you have to deal with there as well. So be careful what you say to friends, to the larger audience, to acquaintances, because if you're too aggressive or too insensitive, it can backfire on you. You might have to be dealing with the fallout of that, or there might be some censoring that happens, I don't know, with the fallout during the Mars retrograde. So we just have to watch out for that. So there you go, Leos. Oh, the eclipse, of course. And again, towards the end of the month, on the 25th, that's when the more tense things are happening. The last 10 days of October is when the eclipse is happening in your 4th house. At the beginning of the 4th house, Sun, Moon, South Node, and Venus will be there. Some fated pivotal event that happens in October or even towards November in regards to places of living, family, home. Some of you might indicate moving somewhere, because South Node is involved. It might be to a place you've been to before, or a place that from a past life place, or for some of you might be some extreme cases, some crisis that happens in the family. But because Venus is there, I think it will keep the things in control. Things will be, even if there is some initial stress, it will turn out for the best. Something connected to property, place of living, home. Some of you, it can indicate finding a property, buying a property, moving over the next 6 to 12 months. Because, as I said, the eclipse, it starts in the end of October, but its influence is 6 to 12 months. So something important happening there. Family, home, place of living. And it might be crisis prone, but because of Venus, and they might be connected to some loss or letting go of something. But the change eventually is positive because Venus is involved. So anything connected to home, property, place of living, yes, there might be initial sense of loss or stress, but the final result is positive. Well, there we go, Leos. That's all for us. And if you'd like to learn and use this heavy third house of learning, studying, you can study with Nicola Stojanovic courses, which are discounted, and the proceeds are going to his daughter, who is trying to continue his work and resurrect some of his never published books and works and courses. But the only courses you can find of Nicola Stojanovic ever, the great astrologer Nicola Stojanovic, are on Astrolada at a discount. Thank you. October, Sun, Moon, Rising. So Virgo, the month starts with Mercury turning direct in your sign. And especially those later born Virgos that are, the last 10 degrees, let's say, they would feel a positive improvement. If things were not going according to plan, they'll start running smoothly. If there were some stressful things that you had to manage every day, that you had to fix, to edit, to improve, if there was changes of plans all the time, well, now all starts calming down. And if you've been working hard on some mercurial project, which is connected to writing, speaking, business, report, anything to do with business is Mercury, anything to do with communications, with media, with marketing, with sales, with or even if there was some complications in relationship, because Mercury is a relational planet, in complications with managing your daily activities, it's all start resolving and things calm down, become more peaceful. You start seeing the results of efforts that you've done, especially that require planning, organizing, thinking, writing, speaking, media, all those mercurial things. You're going to start seeing the good results, the effects of those. And as I said, any crisis in communication and in relationships, especially for later born Virgo, will start improving and settling down. Then Mercury continues its direct motion into your second house. So if there were some problems there while Mercury was retrograde in September with finances, with resources, again, they start calming down, improving as well. Anything to do with money as well starts improving. And there is a very big focus on finances this month for you guys. Actually, if you notice, all the important shifts are happening in those very material houses. The second, the sixth, and the 10th that we're going to talk about. And these are houses. It means this month in October, you're dealing with practical things. And Virgo is great at practical things. You're dealing with possessions, with resources. Actually, things are good there. There can be opportunities for new finances. There can be renewed interest towards making money or towards resources, possessions, buying things, whatever, buying, making, whatever. And at the same time, Saturn will also turn direct in your sixth house. It's not going to be retrograde again in your sixth house for the next 28 years. So it's the last time, and you feel remarkable, gradually improvement in matters related to the sixth house. So if there was some complications to your health with some chronic illness, they can start improving and moving forward. I'm sorry, I'm sick again. They can start unfolding with Saturn turning direct in the sixth house of health issues. You can start finding solutions, or they don't feel as heavy. Also, if you've had some complications connected to your work or employees or your own employment, some difficult situation or situation that required you to put extra efforts and hard work, you're going to start seeing the results of those extra efforts or those restructures that you did in regards to your work environment or work, or if there were some delays with work or blockages, they can start getting solved with Saturn moving direct in your sixth house. Also, in ancient astrology, the sixth house is debt. If you have debt to someone, it might be time that you've paid it off and can start moving forward, or any kind of debt situation might start improving, hopefully. And The other big thing is that Mars will also change direction in your 10th house. That's another house connected to worldly achievements, material things, material recognition to some extent. It's another earthy house as we know it. So there is focus towards the end of the month. Again, there is a big focus the last 10 days, especially when Mars is stationary and it's changing direction. It's changing it on the 27th, I think, something like that. But there is some gradual change and change of direction in regards to your career, where you're headed, what you want to do. Maybe some project from the past can come back to be perfected. Maybe a new project can come because Mars is still direct the whole October. Only towards the end goes retrograde. And when it goes retrograde, you have to work extra hard on that project. And when Mars goes retrograde in the 10th house, some of you might revise. Do I want to stay in this career? Do I want to have this boss? Some of you, and especially if you're not in the right career, the Mars retrograde period can be really the time you kind of start making changes there. For others that are in the right career, they can be very busy, as I said, with more demands. And sometimes in extreme cases, you can have problems that appear with authority figures, institutions, bosses during this Mars retrograde period. So be careful with those during the retrograde period that you don't put yourself in some trouble with father figures, authority figures, institutions, because you might have to be dealing with those for 2-3 months. And sometimes it's not just trouble, it's just having to deal with such matters while Mars is retrograde there, putting extra efforts and so on. I remember Mars retrograde in my 10th house. It was stressful. I have a lot of problems with, police was stopping us all the time. I didn't have serious problems, but there was some problems. And I was having some problems with learning to affirm my authority because, it might be, so themes about authority will come around, institutions, authority, speaking up for what with such authorities, but you have to be cautious and act kind of cleverly when Mars is retrograde there. Think twice or 3 times before you act because impulsivity tends to get punished during Mars retrograde, but you can get a lot of done with your career while Mars is retrograde. I remember I restructured my career. I worked very hard during that Mars retrograde period and my whole social status changed because 10th house is social status. So a huge change happened in my life during that time as well. So I restructured the career and so on, but a whole social status, I decided to get divorced. So I think it's very powerful, Mars retrograde in the 10th house, guys. But the final result was really fantastic. I was so happy with that, even though it was a stressful period. So it's starting, it's building up, but it's very important. It's very important time for Virgos of pivotal, life-changing, direction-changing decisions in regards to where you're headed, your career, your social status, your impact on the world. You can do something really big during this Mars retrograde, while for others it might be like withdrawing a little bit your energy and rethinking if they're not in the right direction, how they present themselves to the world, the career that they're doing, the efforts that they're putting, what direction they want to put them in. And there is, of course, the eclipse that is happening. Virgo, it's happening in your 3rd house with the Sun and Venus, Sun, Venus, Mercury. So there can be some big focus towards the end of the month and in November in matters regarding, and because it's new moon eclipse, starting something new connected to writing, to speaking, to communications, connected to self-made wealth or business, against the 3rd house, transactions, sales, but sometimes it can indicate also crisis. Eclipses can lead to crisis, but the final result I think will be positive because Venus is part of this eclipse, so it's making it more beneficial. It's taking off some of the negative sides of some crisis connected to relationships with relatives, siblings, friends, mates, social media marketing, websites. To be careful around cars when driving, to be careful with using any tools or machinery, especially around the 25th, 24th, 25th, 26th. and some crisis that can happen in regards to those people in your everyday environment. Um, and some kind of a, your thinking is also changing. On a deep spiritual level, it's your thinking and communications that are shifting in some way. And last but not least is that Jupiter, the last days, the last 3-4 days of the month, is moving into your back into your seventh house. It was in your eighth for 5-6 months. Now, in basically mostly in November and December, it will be in your seventh house, which means especially the later born Virgos, the last 5 degrees Virgos, 25 to 30, can feel really strongly this positive aspect of Jupiter, something good coming to you from others, improvement of relationships, a good relationship strengthening or taking it to the next level, someone from the past coming that improves your life, makes you happier, or receiving support from someone well-meaning. Generally, your vibration will rise, you'll feel happier, more physically stronger, more positive. Jupiter can improve health as well. It's the last 5 degrees of Virgo. If you're from 25 to 30 degrees of Virgo, you would feel Jupiter into the opposite sign from yours very positively. And these things will come to you through others, through relationships, through collaboration, or through just hearing something great from another, feeling more uplifted, all in all. So, thank you so much, Virgos. And if you want to take advantage of this eclipse in the third house to learn something fated, these are the courses of the late Nicholas Stoyanovich that we are offering on promotion at 30% off just for the next few weeks. And the proceeds go to his daughter, who is trying to basically to gather all his never published courses and books, and hopefully this money will help her in that direction. Thank you so much. Sun, Moon, Rising, October 2022. Libra, it's a very supportive month for you because most of the important action of the planet is happening in the so-called air signs, and you're an air sign. So it means that the big events will be supporting you, and the big other planets that are changing will be supporting you. And these are the self houses. So whenever there is a big action in the self houses, there is deep realization about oneself because planets are changing direction there in the self houses. There is usually improved self-confidence. A person feels luckier, more aligned to who they are, more aligned to their truth, and they realize what their truth is and what their path is more deeply. And because all the planets that are making big shifts like Saturn and Mars and the planets in Libra, they're in those self houses, and those they're considered lucky houses in astrology. I believe that Libras will find that things are happening easier for them this month, that things are aligning, they're at the right place at the right time. And now let's start gradually from the beginning of the month. First, Mercury is turning direct in your 12th house. So if there was some miscommunications, some problems with lost papers, information, some gossip, they all start clarifying, they all start improving from the beginning of the month. Or maybe something that was lost will come back to you, or will be, if there were some problems with lost papers, documents, cards, credit cards, information of some sort, websites, this all kind of stuff will be improved. And then Mercury continues into your sign, Libra, where it was retrograde for the bigger part of September. So if there were some complications with mercurial things, writing, speaking, communicating, with papers, documents, business of any sort, if there were some delays connected to arranging matters, business matters, or any mercurial work, which is more mental, and then all those things start being resolved. So if you worked hard on something, preparing something during the retrograde period, that is connected to writing, speaking, business, calculations, communications, they again get resolved, or they start giving their results now for you to see. And things start moving smoother and smoother and easier for you, Libras. Mercury will be in your sign visible, so that's fantastic time. If you want to do anything connected to this month in October, connected to writing, to calculating, to you can do a lot of mental work. You can do a lot of paper documents, and they go smoothly. They move forward quite well without a problem. Hello, baby girl. So don't worry, Mila. Can you leave because I'm recording? No, 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 no.
Please make me salad.
I will make you a salad. Go ask Daddy, but Mom is working now. And sorry about that. And anything connected to traveling, to documents, to papers will go very well. Also, any mental work, business work. Again, the whole October is very auspicious to do any of those things. And Venus will be also in your sign for a big part of the month. Even though it's invisible, you might not feel it so strong, but you feel kinder, sweeter, more agreeable. There can be more easy access to love, to relationships, to even becoming more attractive when Venus passes one sign. Things become easier. Please ask your daddy. Can you close the door after me? Thank you so much. Sorry about that, guys. And I see a little Venus beauty pass by. I wonder what that means. If you have any annoyances, I wish you for them that in October that they're as sweet as this little annoyance. And of course, there is a new moon in Libra as well, so you feel renewed. Some new beginnings can come to you during this month, some new directions, some new realizations about yourself that are going well, and that you get inspired about. Because this month is very much about inspiration. All the inspirational houses are triggered from you, the third, the first, the fifth, the ninth. Again, I believe that inspiration will come if you have desire to do something new. You'll be helped by Mars, the planet of action, sending a trine to your sign, and you'll be helped by Saturn, the planet of perseverance. So if you start something new, Saturn helps you, Mars helps you, Saturn helps you, that this thing is lasting, that you do it by the book without rushing. And then the other big thing is that, and a lot of focus on you, like the light is on you in the first house there. The renewal of a physical energy, or your career, if it's your sun, is there, of your ideas, of your inspirations, or if it's your moon in Libra, of your personal private life, new beginnings. And Saturn also will start moving direct around the 23rd of October in your 5th house. If there were some blockages in your love life while Saturn was retrograde for the last few months, if there was some blockages in your self-expression as well, in your ability to enjoy yourself, in your ability to feel love, to give love and to receive love, if there were some karmic difficulties there with your children, if your children have been more difficult, then all of those things start getting resolved from the end of October when Saturn starts moving forward. Or if you worked hard on some creative project over the last few months, then you're going to start seeing the results of it unfolding in front of you with Saturn moving direct. Or if there were some complications in regards to your self-confidence, in regards to something hitting your ego and how you feel about yourself, and making you feel like you want to hide almost. When Saturn starts moving direct in the 5th house, you can kind of feel like an easing of those heavier circumstances. Or if there was more difficulties and more responsibilities that were blocking you from enjoying life, or if your children were more difficult, or some difficulties in the life of your children, they start getting unblocked as well, and your love life as well, and having fun. I'm not saying that you immediately start feeling, oh, great fun, because Saturn still stays in your 5th house. So it's still a little bit more blocking there, but at least it's not retrograde where it's much stronger anymore. And then the other big event is that Mercury is turning retrograde, is changing direction in your 9th house. And 9th house, and that again towards the end of the month, the last 3-4 days of the month. But it's changing direction the whole month, pretty much, of October. So there can be a big shift in your belief systems that are starting to change, your view of the world starting to change. Yes, some crisis can happen around the shifting of the direction of Mars, like some kind of a crisis situation or argument about your beliefs with others or about other people's beliefs or about what's happening in the world. That can be a topic of contention and more stress. But again, I think Mars is receiving a lot of good aspects in October, so I hope it's not gonna get worse after that. And it's not going to lead to something very negative. Also, it can be time for something important happening in regards to foreign travel or traveling on long distance, some kind of a preparation or some kind of change of the situation and plans connected to foreign travel, or something that requires a lot of your concentrated efforts and energy, or anything connected to higher education and knowledge. And when Mars goes retrograde for basically mostly in November and December and part of January, some of you might question the direction of their life or of their future. The ninth house is where we plan our future, and based on our belief systems and based on our ideology, and because something will be changing there with the belief system, with the ideology, questioning and like existential questioning of the direction and the world events that can impact also your plans for the future, make you re-examine it during the Mars retrograde in your ninth house. Some of you might re-examine and have to change something in regards to what they're studying and learning, for example, educational degrees, or some of you might decide to pre-qualify and because of certain knowledge that they'll need, because ninth house also rules knowledge, that they'll need on the new path that their worldview is changing towards. And ninth house can mean busy activity and focused action in regards to legal matters, papers, traveling, documentations, import, export, matters connected to foreign countries and so on, or higher education, or really starting to study something very deeply that you can dive even deeper into during the retrograde period. Just be careful, because there can be some crisis situation with a figure that is a teacher figure or a father figure in your life. Yes, so that's some of the things that you have to be more careful about. But your beliefs are going to start changing your worldview, and you might start feeling very strongly about your belief system while re-examining some of the old ones when Mars turns retrograde. And then, of course, there is an eclipse on the 25th of October. I think the more difficult events are happening the last part of October. Mars turning retrograde, the eclipse. The eclipse is happening for you Libras in your second house. Actually, at the very beginning of the second house, the Sun, the Moon, and Venus will be there. So later born Libras can feel this eclipse like it's on them. So if you're born from maybe 25 degrees of Libra till 30 degrees, especially those born 28, 29, 30 degrees, can feel the eclipse right on them. Some life-changing event. Personally, if it's their son, with the father, with important males in their life, with their health, or with the direction of their life, with their career, something fated, big. If it's the moon in those later degrees in Libra, with family, personal life, home, place of living in a big way. If it's your ascendant, later degrees in Libra, it might be connected with your own health, direction in life as well. Some powerful new beginning that appears, because it's a new moon eclipse. It's about something new. And because Venus is there, the ancients say that Venus takes away the negativity of the eclipse. So hopefully whatever this new beginning is, and even if it's like some crisis triggering it, it's not so, there is a silver lining to it, and it turns out for the best. But most other Libras will feel this eclipse more like into their second house, which is connected some big change with finances, with their resources, with their investments. I think like if the economy is something big is happening, Libra is going to feel it very strongly. So There might be the need for, because it's with the South Node, to let go of something, to lose something. But again, there will be some silver lining there to release something that is in their possession, to sell something, I don't know. But there is a silver lining because the Venus there, and it's not going to be too, dramatic. But still, there is a possible crisis there, or some big new beginning connected to finances, resources. And then the next eclipse will be in November. It directly affects your mutual finances and resources or investments with a partner. But that's for November to look at. And there you go, Libras. That's the most important events that are happening this month. Your planet is in visible Venus. So it's going to join the sun. So there is like a kind of a new reprogramming that will be happening in October that you're going to feel. Again, for all Libras, it's very much new beginning energy. But as I said, I very strongly believe that even though it's Saturn and Mars, two malefics, they're making a trine to your sign. So whatever things are coming, you can be more perseverant and harder working. And despite of difficulties, you would find a way from it and turn it into a positive. So you're kind of supported. So there you go. And Jupiter, most of the month, continues to be in your 7th house. Especially the early born Libras can really benefit from others. Those that are the last 5 degrees, the first 5 degrees of Libra, 0 to 5 degrees Libras, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant. They're really blessed by Jupiter in their 7th house the whole month, which is helping them expand, feel positive through relationships, new, or even something good coming to them from a partner, from the past, in the life of the partner, or from someone they've known from the past, but some positive development there, improvement or development with collaborators or others, but something good coming to you from others. There you go. Thank you so much, Libras. And if you'd like to dive into this 9th house adventure of higher knowledge and learning that Mars is calling you towards, we're offering courses from the late Nicholas Stoyanovich at a discounted price, and the proceeds will go to his daughter, who is trying to reconstruct a lot of his knowledge and materials that were never published. But for now, the only materials that ever exist from Nicholas Stoyanovich can be bought from Astrolada website, and we're offering it on a discount so we can help his daughter republish his books and release courses he hasn't released. Thank you so much. Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising, October 2022. Scorpio, this month, one of the major movements, as a summary at the beginning I'll do, some of the major events will be happening in your so-called emotional houses. You're naturally very deep and emotional sign, so you're going to deal quite well with this energy, but everything important is happening in your 12th, 4th, and 8th houses, where planets are changing directions or where they're concentrated. These are the so-called private, personal, psychological, emotional. So the emotions will be deep, and there will be some deep emotional realizations that you become aware of, because planets are changing directions in those deep, profound houses, like some kind of realizations about your subconscious patterns, about past traumas, about the past, about actions and motivations that come from the, from the invisible, the subconscious. So it's a fantastic time to work with a counselor, advisor, if you're an introspective person, which I believe you are as a Scorpio, to receive those on your own by reading such materials, by thinking on your feelings, on your deep psychological perspectives. And there is a changing of your emotional environment, how you feel about things. And it's, as I said, some big breakthrough can happen, big realization that changes how you feel overall. And for some of you, it first might escalate the emotional situation, and but it will feel like a wave that goes up, and then you're going down with the wave, and the emotional tension kind of start releasing. But let's start moment by moment. First, Mercury turns direct from the beginning of the month. Scorpio, in your 11th house, if there was some complications with the friendships or in communications with others, because it's the social house, the 11th one, it starts getting resolved and going to normal. Or if you've been working hard on some long-term goals and projects, fixing things, editing, 11th house is very much connected to business, to products, to bringing things out to audience or clients. And if you have to revise something there, how you do things, to have important conversations with clients or followers, or if there are some complications there, or if you worked on some project or whatever, or some business strategy, or in some project with a big group of people, then when Mercury turns direct in your 11th house, you're going to start seeing the results of those efforts. Then Mercury continues into your 12th house, where it was also retrograde in September. So if there was some lost or misplaced documents, papers, keys, cards, passwords, and so on, this situation should also improve. Or if there was some loss of information, or emails, or confusion with information, with papers, and so on, this should also be resolved as well. Or with devices, complications with devices, and so on. Again, Mercury turning direct should resolve that. And as you can see, most of the month, to around the 22nd, 3rd, most of the planets are in your 12th house. You might feel a little bit the first 20 days like you need to take a rest and a break. Would like you need to focus more on your internal inner work, because the 12th house is the private place of your soul, where your soul gets recharged. So maybe some of you might need more alone time, to rethink, to reminisce. It's like you're wrapping up a year before the sun and the other planets come into your sign towards the end of the month. So take it easy. If you need a break, or even if you need a holiday, might be a good time for Scorpios. Faraway place, maybe my sister-in-law is Scorpio, so the whole October she's in a faraway country. And because of all those planets there, that the Venus and Mercury and the Sun, they're positive planets, things will go well. There can be some deep insights as well. For others, it might be time to sleep more, or rest time, or do something more in their own privacy. Like reading or watching TV, or I don't know, whatever it is that you do more privately. Or people that are more creative, they can notice that they like more alone time, because they can tap into this inspiration and connection to bringing down images from the invisible world, so to speak. Also, it's time when you can receive messages from the universe when the 12th house is very busy. But overall, some of you might just feel either more tired, less motivated the last few days, but it's great time to travel, to explore, to research, to prepare, to go within deep. Or it can be useful if you're in some spiritual career, healing career, or if you're far away in a different country, that can be that you're feeling more enlivened and excited there. But towards the end of the month, look what's happening. The sun was going to move into your sign, and actually we're going to have an eclipse on the 25th in Scorpio. That's powerful eclipse, but usually just those that are the first 5-6 degrees of Scorpio will feel it. It's happening at 2 degrees in Scorpio. So even from the beginning of the month, if you're a Scorpio, you can start feeling a little bit like antsy and nervous, because eclipses, especially Scorpio, is a very psychic sign. Psychic signs start feeling it from the beginning, and it's like, oh, something's going to shift. Maybe it's a shift in the whole world, not in your personal life, unless you are those early-born Scorpios. The October-born Scorpios, for example, will feel this eclipse very powerfully. So it can be life-changing, and these life changes can happen over the next 6 to 12 months, because an eclipse has such big, long-lasting influence. The later Scorpios might feel this kind of anxiety, or like something's going to change, maybe because they're capturing that big changes will happen in the world. And I told you at the beginning of the video, I made a summary of what I expect to be happening in the world. But otherwise, this eclipse in Scorpio, it's about new beginnings, because it's a new moon eclipse, but it's with the South Node, which is about sacrificing something or letting go of something first. But the good thing is that it's also with Venus, so it's bringing a gift with it. And it's a material gift, or it's kind of a gift that brings happiness on the material, physical level. But there might be some loss involved with that. First some loss, and then, but out of this you gain, and there's a silver lining, and the final result is positive. And powerful new beginning for some Scorpios. If it's your sun in those early degrees of Scorpio, it might be totally new direction in your life, totally new, that is fated, that is, it involves losing who you were till now, or letting go of part of your life, but bringing something that will be materially beneficial long term, and that's more aligned with your spiritual mission, because the South Node is involved and is very spiritual influence. For others, and if it's your sun, it might be a big shift that's happening in your career for the next 6 to 12 months. If it's your, it also can be with an important male figure in your life, father, husband, something big. I cannot tell you what. Sometimes it can be a crisis, sometimes it can be just something else. Like my husband had eclipse on his sun, and his dad, like, he had a huge change in his life, but kind of shock for all of us, but it was for good for him. But sometimes in extreme cases it might be something else. But a new path is there. If it's your moon in those early degrees in Scorpio, it might be in your personal life, family, home, emotional life, like something new appearing that is very place of living as well, that is life-changing, or with a maternal figure or family figure. If it's your ascendant overall, your health, your direction in life, your path, who you are, where you're headed. But all of you who are early born Scorpios, because of this eclipse, you have to be a bit more careful around the days of the eclipse. 2-3 days before, 2-3 days after the 25th of October. Because after all, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant are life-giving points. So just don't expose yourself to dangerous situations, or kind of like dangerous, risky travels. Just kind of, because it's a new moon eclipse, there'll be a lot of inspirations that are coming, and you have to turn within a little bit. And then after that, after the 27th, 8 powerful new beginnings, you can now externally start working on them. But first, you kind of have to integrate that new energy from the eclipse that is coming. And especially if it's some kind of a crisis or shock or surprise, you need some time to integrate it. So wait a few days before you start acting on it. Of course, around the same time, on the 23rd of October, Saturn is turning direct in your 4th house. And that is the last time Saturn will turn direct in your 4th house. And actually, the last time Saturn was retrograde in your 4th house. And the next time it will be retrograde again will be in 28 years. So some of you that have been dealing till now with the Saturn retrograde, with difficulties in family, with difficulties with parents, with difficulties in some difficult situations there with family, place of living, uncertainty, or some of you maybe, all those things will start becoming easier. The family karma will ease off. The problems if a parent or a family member has been having will start improving, or the relationships with them. The more tense situation or the more difficult situation will start improving gradually from the end of October when Saturn turns direct. Also, if you've been working hard on a property or trying to sell or buy, and during Saturn retrograde things were stagnating, now they'll start changing direction. Also, it can mean that you shift your attitude towards matters regarding where you want to live. Something changes there, where you want to live, property, place of living, or changing of how you feel about your family. Plus, the 4th house is generally feelings overall. So there might be a big shift of heavy feelings starting to resolve, starting to become a bit lighter, starting stagnation, emotional stagnation, starting to move forward. And if you've been working hard for the previous months on property or arranging something, home, and so on, you can start seeing the results of that. And then last but not least, Mars, the planet that rules you, is turning retrograde the very last 3 days of the month in your 8th house, Scorpio. So you can see a big shift there as well. So many things are shifting. Eclipse happening at the same time, Saturn changing direction in a very important house, the house of foundation, of family, of home, of feelings, and Mars changing direction in the house of traumas, in the house of intimacy, in the house of, so something can shift as well in intimate life, something can shift in regards to how you feel intimately about someone. Something can shift in regards to how you feel, and some traumas from the past can start resurfacing, or things from the past that were painful only to be excreted, like, let's say, like infection that has to bring out all the poisons on the surface, and only to be, so you can be, over the next 2 months and a half, Mars will be retrograde in your eighth house of traumas. It has an ability to make like a surgical intervention psychologically for you, and some deep retrospection psychologically that happens, that liberates you and relieves you by the end of this process. For some of them, it might be immediate. For some of them, it might be when Mars turns direct. Might take some time in the middle of January, but something that will relieve you from trauma or painful feelings, feelings that were controlling you in some way. And honestly, the trauma is stored in the feelings, and trauma seeps down into very chronic conditions for many people. And it's known in astrology that when Mars enters this eighth house, and if it stays there a long time, like it's going to do for you now because it's going retrograde, there can be a huge release, like an intervention, sudden shift of the layers of trauma in you, which allow like almost like an explosion from a volcano to relieve a lot of the pressure, and sometimes sudden healings, physical healings can happen. Plus, the eighth house is the house of conception. With Mars there, might be possible for some of you to conceive if you're trying to do that, because Mars is a planet that actually, it's a sexual house, the eighth house. It's also, the deep meaning of it is conception, to conceive. And while Mars is an impregnating planet, but you have to be a bit careful, because eighth house is also a house known for possible accidents. So just be careful that you don't do things that are too extreme when Mars starts going retrograde, at least around the time of its stationary position. So the last 10 days of October, the first few days of November, don't do some risky things, go to dangerous places, use machines, or operate, or bungee jump, or whatever, or drive too recklessly or something, or be in dangerous places, because sometimes Mars in the eighth house can create a life, like in extreme cases, danger for the life. And again, there is an eclipse in Scorpio, so just be a bit more careful there. But especially, they can be more accidents prone, and you can be prone more for kind of cuts and bruises and such kind of situations. And I would also advise you, around from the second part of October, not to take risky changes and new endeavors financially with your partner. There can be a big shift starting to happen in the finances of your partner, for example, with Mars changing directions. That might be a bit stressful, that has to be worked through for a few months, and then it can improve a lot. But don't take big risks, like, for example, investing in something totally new while Mars is retrograde together with your partner, or if you have some money, investing in a totally new investment fund or pension fund or whatever. But you might also have to do something for eighth houses, money that you might hold in pension funds, money that you might hold in saving accounts, money that you might hold in some kind of hedge funds or in stocks. There can be some big shifts starting to happen there, so pay attention to that. If you can act before that, so you're not surprised, or if you have to act with that, you're just forewarned. I don't know, you know your state of affairs better. But that can be a great time when Mars goes retrograde in your eighth house, to do some deep research, deep inventory and retrospection. Also it's great for rebudgeting with a partner, making a new budget plan about your mutual finances, that you work through it for, especially in November and December, and you have a way more workable, perfected plan for your finances by middle of January. Plus, there might be some extra expenses that come out, whether you're single now or with a partner. Eighth house is one of the financial houses. So it's, but I think you'd be very involved with that. because Mars rules you. It goes in the 8th house. You'd be initiating this somehow, let's say. And then insurances and inheritances. There's a theme. They become like a theme here. This is the 8th house, so watch out for such things. You might be very busy with such things and fixing them and working on such things, insurances, inheritances, with Mars there in your 8th house for the coming months. And last but not least, towards the very end of the month, Jupiter will enter back into Pisces, which is fantastic for Scorpio because it will make trines, especially the later born Scorpios will feel it, the last 5 degrees Scorpio from 25 to 30 degrees. The later Scorpio borns, they are going to be very lucky starting from the end of October. So the whole November and December, they're very protected. Despite of everything else in eclipses, the later Scorpios, I would say even all Scorpios by the trine aspect by Jupiter, but the later Scorpios, the last 10 degrees, let's say, have the protective influence of Jupiter from Pisces. No matter what happens, their good karma is protecting them. They'll be a bit luckier than others. Past opportunities can come to them. They can have opportunity to expand, to grow, things to happen easily for them. So thank you, and to feel happier, definitely. Thank you so much, Scorpio. And wow, what a huge month for you with eclipses in your sign, new beginnings starting from the end of the month, huge new direction. I mean, right down to me in November. What did happen? What is happening? Thank you. Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, Rising, October 2022. Sagittarius, this month will be socially very important for you with big changes and directions and actually quite positive events as well regarding to the people in your environment, who you meet, who you surround yourself with. The most important events basically are circled around this 3rd house, this 11th house, and the 7th house for you, which are all social houses of communication, connecting with others, building or breaking down bridges with others. And these are business houses as well. Social activity. Nowadays, a lot of us do their social activity online. 3rd, 7th, and 10th, and 11th house are connected to clients, to following, to connecting with people. So those of you who have businesses or any kind of career that's connected to communicating with clients or getting more clients or sales as well, they can expect, I would say, quite positive month as well. And let's start one by one. First, Mercury turns direct in your 10th house at the very beginning of the month. So if you've been working career-wise on something, editing, fixing, using your skills to communicate and information of any sort extra hard during the Mercury retrograde period, when Mercury turns direct from the beginning of October, you start seeing the results of that, of your efforts and the rewards for that. Or if there were some complications with your work or with authority figures, some difficult conversations with father figures or any kind of boss figures or institutions, they start getting resolved and they start improving. Or if there were some delays with work or career, all those things start getting resolved. Then Mercury continues moving forward through the month into your 11th house, where it was retrograde in September. So if there were some complications with friends, or if there was some deep examination of who you let in your circle of friends, or if you worked extra, this all start getting solved, or if you worked extra hard and before on some long-term goals and project, you're going to start seeing it going smoothly, seeing results. Plus there is a new moon in October, almost at the beginning of October in your 11th house. There is a huge focus on this 11th house, Sagittarius, in October, with some very positive influences. New moon there, which means renewal of your goals, renewal of your friendships, maybe new friends appearing. It's with Venus as well, the sun most of the time. So new, more pleasant friends can come, a social environment, or very important social events that you can attend. You can be more busy meeting people. And the Mercury is also there, so it's helping you keep order in your business. If you have business, you can extend your outreach to wider circle. If you're someone who is in business or sales of any sorts, things definitely can be renewed. The new opportunities can present themselves to you. It's a good month for such things. Reach out for more audience or more clients. If you have to present some Mercury things, which is important, like Mercury's communication, something written, spoken, it can reach the wider audience and public with the 11th house. If you have to do some videos or media, again, that's Mercury. In the 11th house, it can reach more people. Or if you can do something marketing again, or about your marketing, about your brand, again, fantastic time for that in October, especially the first 20 days, and Mercury is visible during that time. And then Saturn turns direct in your 3rd house, another social house. So if there was some complications in relationships with siblings or relatives or neighbors or co-workers or teammates or friends, again, this complications start getting resolved. It starts becoming easier. Or if there was some difficulties in their life and you were worried for them, say a sibling or a neighbor, whatever, you start seeing easing off of that difficulty. Or if there was some difficult situation regarding traveling, regarding your vehicle, regarding laptop, phone, connectedness, some problems with your accounts online, some problems with your password, some problems with anything connected online is the 3rd house. Sometimes accounts get broken into, sometimes they get hacked, or sometimes laptops get broken or phones. These things start getting resolved, or if there was some blockage there, or if there was some blockage in your communications, difficulty finding your voice to express what you mean, again, you start seeing that it's becoming easier for you to find your voice and to state whatever is necessary in easy and in a more easy way, in a more straightforward way. If your voice was in some way, I'm not talking your actual voice, but your ability to express yourself verbally was in some way taken out or limited. Now you'll notice when Saturn starts moving forward towards the end of the month on the 23rd that you're more willing to go ahead. Or if you've been working hard on some commercial or intellectual projects, writing, speaking, report, papers, documents, auditing during the Saturn retrograde, on some project like website, 3rd house rules websites, commercial projects, retail, sales. If you're working in any of those spheres, marketing, whatever, communications, media, information, if you are working hard on such a project or learning something, some skill during the Saturn retrograde, when Saturn starts moving direct now from the end of the month, you're going to start seeing the results of that again, the rewards from that, and things will start moving very easily, much more easily forward. Okay, but and the duties and responsibilities in regards to those 3rd house matters will become less intense towards brothers, sisters, relatives, duties towards such or business projects that you've been working or working in a small team environment for something. You're going to start seeing the results and it eases off. And the last but not least, another communication house is Mars in your 7th house of relationships. It's pretty much stationary a lot of the month, and then towards the end of the month, the last 3 days, it starts moving retrograde in your 7th house. So some very important and pivotal event will happen to you in your personal or business relationships. Again, 7th house is your peers that are equal to you, your partner, your your business partners, someone you collaborate with. It can be also clients again. There can be some tense situation though that starts escalating there that requires you when Saturn and when Mars goes retrograde, so mostly in November and December, for you to reevaluate your relationships with others. And you might even withdraw yourself from a relationship, or a relationship might withdraw themselves from you. This, for some of you, it might be even some crisis that escalates in a relationship towards the end of the month that you have to deal on for the next 2.5 months. Sometimes it's court cases even, if the problem can't be resolved, that you have to fight on for a more prolonged time while Mars is retrograde there. And other times it can just be that you have to put extra effort in some relationships, 3 times more effort than normal. Maybe you're collaborating with someone on something and you have to put extra effort, and it might feel tense from time to time. But also, personal relationship can be tested with Mars in the 7th house, unless you're working together on something with a mutual goal. So you're putting a lot of your energy in directing it together in certain direction, so it doesn't stress your personal relationship. And for others, it can be some big change and shift starting to happen in the life of a partner in your life. Like basically, if you have a partner, something big can be shifting then, changing, or your attitude towards a partner or their attitude towards the relationship might start changing for better or worse, And so it will be, and you might find yourself, especially the later born Sagittarius, those that are born from 20 to 27 degrees in Sagittarius. So check out where your sun, moon, or ascendant is in Sagittarius. From 20 to 27, they'll notice that they feel especially more triggered by others. There might be someone in their life that is putting a lot of pressure on them, that is like go, 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 or that is like a bit more critical with their words and sharper with their words, or more possible confrontations with others. Some of you might even want to rush in and burn some bridges, especially with very important business client or very close friendships or personal relationships of some sort. But I always advise, especially when Mars is in such a critical phase, stationary, turning retrograde, before you say something to others, whether it's to a client or to your partner or to someone else in your life, and when Mars is in a relationship house, think 2-3 times before you say it. First, think it maybe before you're ready to explode. Give it a day or give it an hour before you're ready to write an email back or whatever. Wait a little bit, and then, because you might be, especially the bit later born Sagittarius, might be more triggered to create something that they might have to get entangled for the next 2.5 months after. But again, sometimes we have to act out. Something unsaid from the past might start building up that needs to be addressed with a partner, that can no longer be buried under the carpet, and that needs to be addressed in a direct way. But again, you have to be more cautious, not to be hurtful with your words. And if others are, think out well your responses. But there'll be some kind of reevaluation of relationships, changes there. And for others, might be very busy time involved with others. Someone from the past may come back, someone more youthful or something like that, that you reconnect with. Some of you might be time for even increased sex activity with Mars so strong in the 7th house. With reconnect, because Mars goes retrograde, might be someone from the past, especially in November, December, you'll notice that. And others might be to rethink and to reconnect with their old clients and to make a different strategy to approaching them. Saturn is all about like a strategist. Mars is the best logical strategist, like a general. So when it starts going retrograde, to rethink your relationship, to rethink your approach to your clients, to rethink your sales approach as well, and all of those things. But you see, if you're a business-minded person, everything is focused on those areas of life. If you're more personal relationship focused person, there'll be a lot of changes there as well, interesting developments. And a lot of the things, it's almost like you shouldn't do things alone so much, but you have to either take in teams or large groups to collaborate, and because that's where all the action is happening in those houses. And of course, we're going to have an eclipse. It's going to be in your 12th house on the 25th of October. Sorry, guys. I'm sick again. This eclipse is in your 12th house, making you very open to psychic energies. The more intuitive of you towards the end of the month can feel like they're downloading things as dreaming things that are very powerful, like almost like a gate opens between the invisible worlds and you. The 12th house is how we connect to the invisible worlds. Some kind of revelations or psychic readings that change your life, or deep realizations, psychological deep realizations that shift and change your life in some way. Some spiritual, even like a spiritual opening for some of you might be because Venus is there, hopefully in a more positive way to connect to more positively, because the eclipses, they thin the veils between the two worlds. Plus, it's in the 12th house of invisible worlds for you, in a very psychic sign, Scorpio. Some of you might receive messages, insights, but also the 12th house is the house of ending, with an eclipse there, which is South Node eclipse of endings, letting go. Some of you might be releasing something from your life. It might be some addiction in the best case scenario, because 12th house rules the things that we are self-sabotaging through, vices, addictions, and such kind of addiction might be released from your life, like through a big, it might be in an explosive way, but something can leave your life. But because also it's a new moon, there's some new beginning involved there. And for some of you, might be some new spiritual journey, because it's a South Node eclipse. South Node is very spiritual, some deep spiritual, as I said, breakthrough or journey. For others, it might be something powerful in regards to over the next 6 months, because this eclipse will affect you 6 months, something very powerful, events that will develop in regards to foreign countries and places, even relocating to a foreign place or country, to a new environment, to a different state, or traveling to such places, that this eclipse can unlock such themes, or themes about research or studying something, or even something private and secret. 12th house rules also bed pleasure. Scorpio is a very sexual sign. I know Sagittarius. For some of you, there might be this hidden, private, sexual thing that is being unlocked with this eclipse there. Who knows? Oh, wow. Sorry about that. Well, there we go. Oh, yes, and one more thing. Jupiter, the sign that rules you, is most of the month in your 5th house, so it's very much protecting you, especially the very early born Sagittarius, those in the first 5 degrees, 0 to 5 degrees. Things are happening very easy, very smoothly, very good for them. Opportunities from the past, love experiences, more joy, more pleasure, more happiness, more luck in life, definitely. Whoa, Jupiter is supporting you. No matter what the other transits, the early born Sagittarius, they're really protected this month. But towards the end of the month, the last 3-4 days, Jupiter moves to a different sign. So kind of the exuberance of the fire signs will subdue in all of you Sagittarius, and you'll feel a little bit more wet. Not in that sense, like a little bit more subdued, a bit more emotional. It goes back into Pisces, and more for the next 2 months after that, November and December, good things can come to you in your personal life, home, family, place of living, finding a place of living, selling, buying property that goes well. Those themes get enhanced again, or creating a family, or settling, or just the emotional happiness. You focus more, but it's more internal rather than exuberant, external, which I know Sagittarius prefer it more. And thankfully, Sagittarius have been helped with Jupiter in the 5th house, with that more exuberant, more life-affirming energy for the last 5 months. But now Jupiter at the end of October goes back into a more introspective sign and house for you. So it feels better inside emotionally, but in a more retracted way, more like emotional healing energy. Thank you so much. So yeah, the most important thing to remember for this month is that there is a big focus on relationships and big changes that are happening in them, not just personal, but overall with people around you. And these are the moving engines for you around that time. Thank you. Sun, Moon, or Rising, October 2022. Capricorn, quite good news for many of you because first, Pluto is going to start moving direct in your sign. So Pluto is the planet of really the heaviest energy. It's been in your sign since 2008. Many Capricorns were destroyed and recreated again, went through the biggest fears of their life only to come back on the other side. But again, Pluto, it's at the very end of Capricorn now. And when it starts moving direct in your sign, in October, you feel it being a bit like lightening up of the darker energy, of the more negative energies, especially the later born Capricorns, especially those that are born around 25, 26, 27, 28 degrees. If you check your sun, moon, or ascendant, you'd feel this lightening up and things not so deep and not so traumatic and so intense. And your willpower will become more strong as an iron and focused into a certain direction. And then Saturn is also turning direct around the 23rd of October for you. And Saturn rules you. So if you felt things were a bit stagnant, after 23rd of October, they start moving forward. Plus, your planet that rules you is changing direction. So you're going to have a change of heart or change of mind in particular, because it's in an air sign, so it's more connected to your mind, in regards to your finances, because it's in the second house, in regards to your self-worth, if there was some hits you went through because of your self-worth being lowered. Now Saturn turning direct in your second house of self-worth, we'll see that this starts being corrected and improved. If there were some complications and problems or lack or blockages in regards to finances, resources, money, they'll start becoming easier and improving as well after the 23rd of October. If there were some complications or problems with food or what you eat, again, it will start improving after that. And you're not going to be bothered by such intense problems of the second house for many years after that, guys, for 20 or something. Of course, second house is also the house, and Saturn was retrograde for the last few months. If you've been putting hard efforts to improve your finances, to improve your stability, to improve your eating habits as well, when Saturn starts turning direct, you start seeing the results of that, and you'll feel more secure, more stable overall, or you'd feel that you're very much in control of those. Yeah. Planet retrograde in your sign turns direct, and that's the heaviest planet, Pluto, so lightness start coming, and then the planet that rules you, that's the second heaviest planet. But Saturn is turning direct again, so the karma of those two planets lightens up, and you feel it directly affecting your health, physical body, first house, and what sustains you. Second house is also family. If there were some complications with family, and the whole environment that supports you will also start improving. And the other big focus this month is in another earth house, which is connected to career and ambition, because this is where all the planets are concentrated, the Sun and Mercury and Venus, most of the time. So that will be a very auspicious time for your career, guys, or for your ambitions. They can be a renewal of your ambitions. Plus, with the lightening of the burden of those planets, Pluto and Saturn on you, you can be freed to pursue higher goals and reach higher as well. Plus, Mercury was retrograde in your 10th house in big part of September. It's going to turn direct and continue to move forward in your 10th house. So if some of you are working extra hard on something to do with career, on some project there, they're going to start seeing the results and the rewards from that. Or if there were some complications with your work, or 30 figures, or bosses or institutions, or some more difficult situation, more demanding, with more duties and responsibilities, all of this will start getting resolved. Plus, because your career will be renewed and Venus will be there joining the Sun, there will be some new ideas that come to you that you might unfold over the next 9 months, because that's the cycle of Venus till it reaches a different stage. So watch out for what appears there. There might be also some powerful authority figures that might even be helpful to you in some way because of Mercury and Venus being involved. And I think they can be overall even like a new job for some of you, new idea for a plan, or something positive happening with institutions and authority figures, some big focus there. So you see first finances start improving, then career opportunities, and then Mars is changing direction in another Earth house for you. Again, focus there. Towards the very end of the month, Mars is turning retrograde in your 6th house. Interesting. And it's going to be retrograde basically the whole November and December until the middle of January. That would be like a big call for many of you to really revise their health. It already starts from October. If some health issues start appearing, it's a big call that you need to revise your habits and routines, to start to experiment and start and try something else. Go back to some workout routine, go back to some old medicine or routine. Maybe change your doctor and maybe approach and study and research. Mars in Gemini, I would like to put a lot of energy into mental research about how to improve your health, about supplements and so on. And you might be in this research mode for a couple of months. And by the end of this process, by the middle of January, when Mars starts turning direct, maybe by the spring when it's still in your 6th house, you might have much more improved health, especially if some problems start coming up. For others, it can mean like really putting great efforts in exercise and something like that to improve their health. While 6th house is also work and duties and responsibilities, whether it's to clean the house, whether it's to iron the shirts, whether it's to you're employed for someone and you have this and this task. Well, Mars there can really put more pressure on you. And retrograde Mars doesn't mean your job or work stops and you're not working. Sometimes it's the opposite, because the retrograde planet is 3 times brighter and stronger. For some of you, might can feel like intensification of the duties and responsibilities at work, maybe some deadlines, more pressure. Sometimes they can be the environment that becomes more biting and stressful between workmates when Mars is in the 6th house that you might have to be dealing with. Other times you need to put extra mental efforts to learn something because something is changing at your work, to adapt. Others might be when Mars starts going retrograde, so this October, maybe even from the middle towards the end, to really rethink their work direction or who they are employing, and starting to change something about, who they employees. There might be some crisis there of that sort. Or others, it might mean they come back to an old project that they need to work extra hard on to revive or to improve. Then it's a lot of more like skills and intellectual skills that you're using to revive or to edit or to fix some project. Even though, your career is being renewed in the 10th house, especially more the first part of the month, but the later part of the month, something connected to employees, to work, to duties and responsibilities escalates. And it has to be revised, it has to be fixed. You have to maybe make it more efficient, your work environment or your duties. And it might throw you out of how you expect your everyday life to go on, because the 6th house is also the house of routines. You have a plan, I'll do this, I wake up, I brush my teeth, I go to work, Well, this can be all thrown into chaos when Mars starts turning retrograde, and suddenly your whole daily activities have to change and you have to adapt for a little bit during this retrograde period, or at least at the beginning. And it's all for good. Eventually it will all be for good. So interesting things are happening there, guys. You see so much focus. 2nd house, finances, work. And these are all houses, how you take care of your body, of the physical needs, of responsibilities, of duties of work. But don't worry, it's not all grind. Because you're going to have an eclipse in the 11th house. It's a very social house on the 25th of October. It's not affecting you negatively as a Scorpio, as a Capricorn. It's in your 11th house, but still it's a new moon eclipse. There can be some big shift happening with your friendships over the next 6 months. An eclipse gives the tone for the next 6 months. So the biggest event is this eclipse, big shift of the layers in your social environment, who is around you. Sometimes people can appear, new can appear. It's with Venus, so maybe some new more spiritual friendships can appear, or environment in more spiritual groups, because with the South Node is spiritual. With Venus, with more females of some sort. or some fated event connected to another person that is happening in your life. And sometimes there can be the feeling of a loss, but it's because it's with the South Node. But since Venus is also there, there is a silver lining, and it's going to turn out for the better. The 11th house is also house of long-term goals and dreams. So can there appear an opportunity or a big shift in the direction of your goals and dreams, an opportunity maybe to start doing something that can impact large groups of people, even globally, because that's a very global house that reaches to society, not just in your immediate environment, but to a much larger group. And for some of you might be opportunity to get involved with something that is more noble, less egoistic, because South Node is their most spiritual influence, with a large organization to benefit society of some sort, or some large project of a sort that involves more people. But again, because it's South Node involved, there is this element of a loss, or having to let go of certain people around in your environment, or groups or affiliations and associations. But overall, I'm very happy about Saturn turning direct for you, Pluto turning direct in your sign, and Mars going retrograde. It is what it is. And so many planets in your 10th house that allow you to be visible, to impact, to be impactful, to be respected more, to renew your career. And Jupiter will move into from the very end of the month. So still almost to the end of the month, it's very auspicious time to do anything connected to property, place of living, because Jupiter is in your 4th house with family and so on. And then Jupiter, the last 3 or 4 days of October, moves back to your 3rd house, and it will be there the whole November and December. So those 2 months will be great time for you working on any project connected to sales, marketing, management, or any project connected to communications with internet, websites, sales, writing, speaking, renewing, or kind of skills, using your skills, working in a small group environment with people in some marketing business, or some group, like think tank group, and improving relationships with siblings, getting in touch with people from your past in a positive way that you've been disconnected with, maybe with friends, with relatives, with siblings, and even for some short trips and journeys, and feeling positive. I love when Jupiter is in the 3rd house. It's one of my favorite positions because I start feeling more optimistic. So this kind of energy will come towards the end of the month when Jupiter enters your 3rd house again, allowing you to feel more positive, more optimistic overall. There you go. So I don't think any of the difficulties like the eclipse and Mars going retrograde are directly affecting you by a difficult aspect. So I kind of have mostly hopes for you, Capricorns. Thank you so much. Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, October 2023. Hey, that's my Ascendant as always. I'm curious to see what the month brings. I never prepare in advance. I let in like the moment. I just research what the planets are. Well, huge focus, Aquarius, on our self houses. The biggest events that will happen are in the luckiest houses for Aquarius. 1st, 5th, and 9th houses. And there is another big event that is the eclipse. We'll speak about it. But I'm happy to say that those houses are considered the most positive in astrology. And when there are more planets there, even if they're difficult planets like Saturn and Mars for us, it's like those difficult planets starts working for us, and they support us and they help us. And the self planets are very much because the planets will be changing direction. They will have some deep realizations about ourselves. That will be liberating. That will align us to our own truth, to the right path, to the Dharma, as they call the Dharmic houses. Dharma is what really will make you happy. What truly are your gifts and your path that the higher self wants from you, rather than your personal desires. And this is something that is like the desires of your spirit, so to speak. So you'll get some clarifications, about what is it, where you're headed. So let's start little by little though. let's start from the beginning of the month. And they will have more luck with the endeavors that we're doing, but let's go one by one. First of all, Mercury turns direct in our 8th house from the very beginning of the month. And if you had some complications or delays with filling out taxes, matters connected to insurances or inheritances, or receiving money from others, clients or whatever, if there was some delays or problems or, things not going so well, or some rebudgeting, if you've done a rebudgeting with your partner or some changes, all this, or if there were problems with your partner's finances, all of those start improving from the beginning of the month. And if you've been working hard on something, especially using a lot of your skills or research, especially, you might start seeing the results of that. Because 8th house is house of research, maybe some secrets that came out to the surface, or maybe some deep realizations. Again, Mercury changes directions, and those deep realizations are no longer disturbing you. They kind of make you even emotionally stronger because it's in the house of emotional strength. Plus, I don't know about you, but with Mercury retrograde in my 8th house, I went crazy researching astrology and researching researching all kind of a conspiracy theories, as they say. I'm just like obsessed all the time reading about that and about deep topics. So Mercury turns direct there, and you can do something useful with that information, or you can integrate it in your life somehow. And maybe stop thinking so much about such dark topics finally. and as I said, Mercury then continues to move forward in your 9th house a few days after that, where it was retrograde in September. So if there was some complications or something you've been preparing for, long-term travel, trip, everything starts going really well there, or legal documents start going well. Anything connecting legal matters, documents, papers, starts really improving and flowing for you, Aquarius, or higher education as well. There's plus huge activity happening in this 9th house in October. So a lot of focus on some of you, maybe on travel, maybe on teaching. Like all October, I'm preparing teaching materials. I'm preparing your 9th house rules the future. I'm doing predictions for you for 2023. I've been recording them. So some of you, I'm not saying all of you will be doing that, but this is how it's playing out for me. But some kind of a lot of focus on preparing for the future, on clarifications, getting clarifications. Also receive a lot of clarity. This 9th house, when the planets start coming out of your 8th house, where you usually were with a bit darker and we think about more painful, difficult, scary things, well, the 9th house lightens up the energy. So definitely we'll feel more inspired, more positive. All these inspirational houses, the 1st, the 9th, where you see all the changes are happening, you start feeling more positive and having more faith. Because while planets in the 8th house, we're kind of a research mode, very deep, dark mode. We kind of gravitate towards the darker topics and themes. But now you feel like, I'm more connected to spirit. I'm more connected to God. I see the bigger picture. I see how I fit there. I see where my future is going. So some big clarifications, aha moments, being aligned, things flowing, so to speak. And any activities about Mercury will be visible in your 9th house. If you're teaching, writing, educating, or traveling, will go very well. And then the next big thing is that Saturn is turning direct in Aquarius. It's pretty much on the 18th degree the whole of October. That can be life-changing time for those Aquarius that are born from 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 degrees of Aquarius, those 4 or 5 degrees, because Saturn is staying there at those degrees. Very strong influence, very strong power, some life-changing decisions, maybe some tests for those degrees in particular that I feel they're very strongly tested. But from the 23rd, Saturn changes direction and starts moving away from those degrees. So they'll start feeling a lightening up and they've passed the test, whatever it is. But for all other Aquarians, they'll feel when Saturn starts moving direction, first they'll feel like they're slowing down and time is stopping and It's like their mind is starting to shift, their outlook overall is starting to shift. And I think those planets in the ninth house are helping us be in a more positive state of mind. And then Saturn starts moving in a different direction, and it's not going to be retrograde again in our sign, Aquarius, for 28 years. So it's the last of the test. And when Saturn is retrograde, it's more testing than when it's direct. It's more difficult overall. So especially those of you who've been having some health issues while Saturn was retrograde, like I've been sick so much, and Saturn's been in my first house, like showing me that I am mortal, that I can age too, that that I have to really rethink my health and how I live my life. Well, now Saturn starts moving direct. Hopefully, if you've put the right efforts, the health problems will start easing off. More energy will start coming to you. Some blockages, if you felt blocked or unclear where you're headed, will start clearing up. If there was too many heavy responsibilities or duty or stagnation or feeling overwhelmed, it will start easing off those burdens. Or if things were just moving too slow, from the end of October and into November, you start noticing forward movement, things happening more according to how you want them and according with your will, without external blockages, more in alignment with where you see things going. And if it's your sun in Aquarius, you might, especially on those more difficult degrees, but all Aquarius, you can start feeling that improvement from the end of October with your career, with the males in your life, with authority figures in your life, with your vitality, with your confidence, with your luck overall in life. If it's your moon, with your emotions improvement, easing off of responsibilities and duties at home, or in relationships with women, or with your family and mother and female figures in your life, or just overall relationships, that the painful situations, they were very difficult, the block situations are starting to resolve. Still, Saturn will be now assigned till March 2023, but it becomes lighter when it's no longer retrograde, because the retrograde is when we get our ass kicked the most and when we learn the best lessons. But those of you Aquarius who've been working hard in the last few months during the Saturn retrograde on something, slowly chipping away, changing some habits, using willpower, using perseverance, using reasonability, who's had their ass kicked and had hopefully some humble themselves a bit, when Saturn starts moving forward, it will give us the rewards and the results of our actions. It will give us basically the results of our efforts, previous efforts, and things will start moving forward. If you've been working hard on building something, the Saturn transiting from one sign is often about putting new foundations. Well, now you start seeing them above the ground. Now you are digging underground for the foundations, and you felt like, I've been working so hard and no results. Well, Saturn starts moving forward, and now you're going to start seeing what you've been building manifest. Start giving results. Well, this is good news. Then the other big event is that Mars is turning retrograde at the very end of the month, at the very end of our fifth house. Again, it's a supportive aspect to Aquarians, and they'll feel it strongly, usually also those later born Aquarians, from 20 to 25, 7 degrees. But all Aquarians, basically, they'll notice that there's a strong focus in the whole of October, because Mars is almost stationary. A strong focus on children, strong focus on, like, my children have been going crazy since Mars went into my fifth house. They're just so unruly, and something has to change. So maybe that's when things escalate and I decide something has to change. But of course, be careful around the retrograde period, the stationary retrograde period, that there's not some problems with children in their life, or that there's not some stresses in your romantic life. Maybe you have to, during the retrograde period in November and December, to rethink your romantic situation, or to revisit some old places, or to redo some old favorite things you used to do. But there might be some crisis as well for certain people. Others can indicate, when Mars starts going retrograde, a lot of focus on some creative project, something that you've already started, that you're putting 3 times more energy than any times to fix, to improve. It will require a lot of your communication skills, intellectual skills, And it might be like some working on some project that is your baby. Like I'm be putting those 3-4 months of Mars retrograde, 2.5 months, final touches and working very hard on a project I've been working creative, my personal ideas for the last 3 years. So now it's like it will be the peak time, this Mars retrograde, but things can go slower with those creative projects that you have with those. It's not necessarily that it's some painting or drawing. If you have your own business and it's your own idea, that's your creative project that you might be putting extra effort and correcting, fixing, and the final result might not be at all what you imagined initially, but Mars will perfect it and make it even better. So just be patient, starting and use that concentrated energy of Mars when it's retrograde to really perfect, to put final touches to something you've been working on creatively, whatever, some idea of yours, to rethink it, to redo it, even if there are complications and it's stressful. Bear with me, and after January the 11th, January the 15th, you'll start seeing the results after that. And if it's your romantic life that's being questioned, then you have to rethink something. Again, the most critical periods are during the turning points of Mars. So something can shift in your attitude towards a partner romantically, or in an attitude towards a child, if you have a child, or in an attitude about getting pregnant. If you've never wanted to get pregnant, you might start thinking, actually I want to get pregnant because the planet is changing direction in your 5th house of children. Or maybe if you wanted to always have children, Mars changing direction, you might be like, now I see it from a different direction. On another level, past loves can come back, or the memory of past loves can come back to be rethought and reimagined. Or having closure in, but sometimes it's actual physically that someone can come. And plus Mars, while it will be retrograde in your 5th house, it keeps asking, don't forget to have fun, maybe to put focus on some sport that you enjoy, on some hobby that you do, because it's a very positive house after all, and Mars wants there to really help you find which are the best sports for you, which are the best hobbies, which are the best activities that make you feel more alive and excited. And of course, we have an eclipse again. So you see all inspirational houses. The 1st of self and health, though. The 9th of inspiration, teaching, feeling more positive. The 5th. Oh, Mars, start moving direct. I can't take it anymore. Get out of Aquarius. It's just killing me. I've been so sick all the time. Okay, so, and then the other big thing that's happening for Aquarius is an eclipse. And this eclipse is happening in our 10th house on the 25th of October. Again, maybe not necessarily all Aquarius will feel it. It's a new moon eclipse, which means something new, it's coming. Something powerful in regards to their career. It might be a new project, and it might be for the next 6 to 12 months. But it might start with a crisis in regards to career, in regards to work, but there is silver lining because Venus is part of this eclipse, so it's bringing positive results eventually. And it might be some crisis happening with an authority figure, boss figure, father figure in your life. But again, it's bringing something new there that will be your own personal authority, maybe, that will be born of some sort. So pay attention. This will be a huge focus, this career sphere, or authority figure and institution sphere. But I kind of feel hopeful because of the trines that the other planets are holding for us. But this eclipse holds much longer influence for 6 months to 12 months when the planets will have shifted by then. There is a big sign here. Something big is going to change with your social status, with your ambitions, with your career, with authority, father figures or boss figures in your life. So there we go, Aquarius. This is the horoscope for you. I think it's positive, but of course we can never be 100%. These are general horoscopes. So God bless you and take advantage of this October. Do the best of it. Pisces, Sun, Moon, Rising, October 2022. Pisces, this month there is a lot of focus on deep emotional level where you have some deep, powerful realizations, but I also have some great news for you. But let's start one by one. At the very beginning of the month, Mercury is going to turn direct in your seventh house. So, if there were some complications in relationships with clients, with people around you, with your partner, with your business partner, colleagues, peers, they'll start being resolved and things will improve in your relationships. Actually, if you've done your job well, if there were some, problems in relationships and you did the good conversations, then your relationships will even improve significantly. And then Mercury will move into your eighth house, where it was retrograde in September. So if there were some complications with insurances, inheritances, taxes, or some secrets, or something connected to mutual finances and resources with a partner, if there were some misunderstandings or problems, they'll start being resolved again in October and developing well. Actually, October is a really great time to deal with taxes, with insurances. Mercury will be visible in your eighth house to deal with mutual finances with a partner, even to make some investments, to decide where to put your money mutually together, or to develop strategies of financial security together with your marriage partner or business partner if you have such. Plus for some deep intimacy and some deep conversation, or fantastic time for studying of the occult, of researching very deep, sometimes even scary and unpleasant topics. You can delve very, very profoundly into them and have a lot of insights. And if you want to study astrology, of course, you can study with me or the courses of Nicola Stojanovic, which are on discount now, and the proceeds go to his family, of course. But researching topics, deep topics, secrets, intimate conversations, these are, or even uncomfortable topics, and having deep realizations about your traumas, about an eighth house, about the deep motivations inside of you. Almost you'll be like an X-ray, reading people, reading yourself, having profound insights into many things. So fantastic time for research. And then Saturn is turning direct in your 12th house. It's been retrograde there for the last 4 months or something like that. So if you found yourself that you are blocked psychically, emotionally for the last few months, now Saturn turning direct towards the 23rd of October, you feel a gradual but huge relief of pent-up emotions and feelings. That's another emotional psychological house. If you've been working hard on some past on something from the past, on your with the psychologist, digging, you might have like a reversal and release, like a liberation of some sort. And even if you've been working hard on getting rid of bad habits, because the 12th house rules addictions, bad habits, things that were self-sabotaging, you can finally feel a bit like a relief and things becoming easier, and that it's not so white knuckling it, for example. Or if you felt that you were bonded to some kind of addictions or some kind of obsessions as well, there can be a turning of direction and release of those psychological attachments, and much easier for you to let it go. Or if you felt very stuck or lonely, because Saturn, the 12th house, always brings the feeling of loneliness or confusion, as a lack of confusion as to the structure, confusion as to the unmotivation as well sometimes. It's been a long time there, for 2 years, and retrograde 2-3 times already in your 12th house. But that's the last time, and it's starting to move direct. And especially if you felt like very stuck on something from the past, it might be a pain from the past, whatever. The 12th house rules even past lifetimes and things that are now subconscious, but they're blocking us. You'll notice a considerable improvement from the end of October in such matters. Or if there was some stagnation and issues connected to foreign travels or to foreign relocation, or to something connected to faraway countries, it will start being resolved. Also, if you've been doing some deep research and study, that's another house of deep research, things will start clarifying to you, becoming clearer. Plus, when Saturn is in the 12th house, we're often very confused, especially while it's in retrograde motion. We're like, we're going back, trying to go back to the past, to hold on to the things that we think is part of us and who we are. But at the same time, feeling, I know something has to change, but I can't. I feel stuck. I'm confused. I don't know where to head. Well, with Saturn starting to move forward, you're not going to feel this tension, this pressure, and this blockage. All right. And on another level, we have eclipse. Oh no, Mars. Mars going retrograde towards the end of the month again, around 27, 28. It's going to go retrograde in your 4th house. And it's going to be retrograde the whole November, December, part of January. So some of you might be feeling the tension escalating in their role as a parent, because the 4th house is parenting, or in their role, in their relationship with the parent, with the family. You can notice that something is coming to a peak in the family situation, and when Mars turns retrograde, there will be a change of the direction, how you feel about your family, how you feel about the place where you live, how you feel about your house, how you feel about your relationship with your parents. There might be a shift in your relationships, for better or worse. If there are things that you haven't said and have to be said and addressed that are problematic in your family overall, this is when things can explode, and you will address it, and you'll have 2.5 months to change the rules and to perfect it so it's more tolerable. Some kind of a responsibility can appear, or something to be fixed or changed. Sometimes people, the easiest thing is that they start some repairs around the home, because Mars is something physical to do. And during the retrograde period, they might drag longer than you expect, but the final result can be much better as well. But just be careful how you treat your loved ones, your family around, because if you say some too harsh things, or if they say it, it can escalate to a problem that takes a couple of months or a bit longer to solve. But otherwise, you can feel emotionally a little bit more. You see those planets all churning your psychological houses, the 12th, the 8th, the 4th, where it's the childhood memories. You might go down memory lane with Mars turning retrograde, exploring your family traumas. And then the 8th house illuminating, the sun illuminating in this dark house of traumas, giving answers, and Saturn unblocking some of the karma. 12th house is the most karmic house. This is when we pay the biggest karmas. When Saturn transits the 12th house, we bear the consequences of our past action. And now Saturn is turning direct there for the last time. So it's easing off this karma and giving you some realizations again. And Mars turning direction in a house of parents and ancestors. I mean, if you're going to therapy or something like that, it might be very, very a game-changing month, illuminating month. Or even if you're not going, you can have just some big revelation psychologically and kind of on a healing, deep healing, psychological, emotional level on your own. Or if you're studying astrology or something mystical, the 8th and the 12th houses are connected to astrology, psychology, the occult, mysteries, and planets there changing direction there. Your consciousness is shifting on a deep emotional level. And it can, so you see a lot of the events are kind of hidden from the world, but deeply impacting you psychologically. Of course, if there might be more material manifestation of the 4th house, like we said, the 8th is more taxes, insurances, inheritances. The 8th is more home, family, property, place of living. And then, of course, you're going to have an eclipse. This eclipse actually is on the 25th. And around the same time, Mars goes retrograde. And around the same time, Jupiter moves in your sign. So I think this Jupiter immediately is super protective power. So immediately it will protect you if there is any disruptive influence of this eclipse, because eclipses can be disruptive. But in you, the eclipse is happening in a house that is trine to you. So I don't see this eclipse hurting Pisces. If anything, it can be very useful. It's with Venus. Some new beginnings over the next 6 to 12 months that it unlocks, connected to foreign places, higher education, teaching, faraway countries, traveling as well. that can unlock you on spiritual travels, spiritual studies. So fantastic time for many Pisces to go on some exploration, with first starting from October, the deep exploring of the 8th house of the occult, then the 9th house, higher knowledge. Some of you can have like a big crisis of where your future is going, because 9th house is where do we think our future is, but it will really, but it has a silver lining, because your beliefs will be changing, and they are changing. And that will make you realign and change your plans for your future, what you want to study, what you want to work, where you want to be. And this will have a silver lining, because it will lead you to more peaceful spiritual belief system, and to unlocking more luck in your life, because it's one of the lucky house that the eclipses triggers. Plus Jupiter enters your sign from around 27, 28 of October. Will be there the whole November and most of December. So the later born Pisces, those from 25 to 30 degrees, all Pisces too, will immediately feel raising of the vibration, more knowledge, more insight, more knowing where they're going, alignment to their path, lucky synchronicities, luck overall. This is Jupiter. More spiritual insights, but especially the later born Pisces, they can be, if you're 25 to 30 degrees Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, they can be great opportunities that come to you for growth, for studying, for traveling, for expansion, luck, for wealth as well. If it's your Sun in those degrees, your business can grow bigger, new inspirations, new ideas, and positive developments with males and important male figures in your life. If it's your moon at 25 to 30 degrees Pisces, might be positive emotional relationships, parenthood, might be something connected to your personal life or emotional happiness. Or with women, if it's your ascendant, your overall direction in life, new beginnings that unfold in easy way, that bring potential for growth for the next 12 years of you. So inspiration will come back to you, Pisces, to revisit you, to help you lift up your energy again. Thank you so much, guys. I think that's all for you, and have a blessed October, and I'll see you in November.